Yeah, you are. We're doing it. That late night. Yo, let's get after it. Yo, yo. D-Ball, what's up? We're just watching the this is a whatever the previous season was. So it's just until we get to the fun stuff. This is just the prelude. This is Dragonfall. So this is one of the Dragonfall season of Strife KVK groups. And this is Final Zone between Fawn and MFS. It looks like they're, I'm not sure if they're like constantly going at it or if they're just doing some mock stuff right now between the two. But yeah, we are just getting a little PvP prelude in before we get to some of the good stuff, man. But oh god, how about those that second anniversary events? I'm gonna be honest, I didn't realize the second anniversary events were, at least some of them. I didn't realize that people were having as big of issues with them on like the troop exchange one that I think they said they did a hotfix for. But yeah. And then oh god, there was one other too as well that some people were having an issue with, and people were just on about it on the kind of Discord on Gen Chat. But yeah, man, I got a good night, man. A good night for everyone. So we're gonna be doing some video reacts. We're gonna be going through some suggestions. We'll be talking about the update, maybe some Dimension Duel stuff. May even, just depending on time. Oh, I already posted something here. Depending on time, we might even look at some. We might even look at some COD and maybe Rock jump projects too as well, and just kind of see what's going on there. But yeah, man, at least for the moment, just hanging out. Gonna enjoy a couple hours on the late Friday night. Hanging out with the fam. Yeah, especially after I was finally able to get some stuff done, so it felt pretty good. I got my green drink. Yeah, I was thinking about getting some sangria in, but Lexi's not. I don't know if Lexi's here. I think she's probably way asleep, so I don't think there's going to be a chance of her hanging out with us tonight. Jan, what's up, man? Welcome. A big war, I see. Man, it was popping off. It just started, I think, where they're doing like a mock battle or something that's going on here in this Season of Strife Dragonfall KVK, because they had a bunch of players that were just lining up before I started. Yeah, before we got in, like probably just before I started, they ended up going at it a little bit. Yeah, but like I said, this is just a little prelude. We'll be starting off and getting some fun stuff going on. And then there's some big wars tomorrow too as well. So I will absolutely be streaming again and covering those, because there is some stuff that's going on in Zone 2s for openings, and we got some potential cross Zone 3s too as well. So really, really excited for that. Yeah, and then I got to figure out some images too as well, because tomorrow I might be putting out the most used heroes video. So I'm trying to do like this tier maker thing that I'm figuring out right now. And I'm just trying to like, I grabbed a bunch of images for the heroes, but then I found some other in our art assets file that we have as creators. And so I thought, okay, maybe I'll try those. So I'm going to try using the tier maker thing for the first time. So that we might end up putting that out tomorrow. Yeah, I think that could be a fun one. Plus, man, I mean, it is technically the official, it's the official anniversary, like really technically the official anniversary of the game, because literally it's March 28th. So they are, they are absolutely 2 years old now. But it's wild, because there's literally like nothing else as far as PvP goes in game. And like I said, we're just gonna hang out here for a bit, just until I finish getting some promos out. But I went and I looked through all the KVK groups for season 2, 3, 3 pre-strife and season strife, and this had the most action, at least just for something to kind of watch in the background for a bit. So, because everything's kind of in that in-between period right now, where it's just kind of waiting until, like I said, the Zone 2's open for some, for the Gen 2 groups. And then for Gen 1, we're waiting for those cross Zone 3s, which will, again, all of those, both of those are going to start opening across the next 2 days. So, like, yeah, man, there is some absolute excitement that is going to be around the groups. So I, for one, am ecstatic. Yeah, man, I can't wait, because this is actually, I think, going to be the first opportunity for me to potentially, live stream some like massive pass openings for the first time. So I'm again, like I said, man, I, for one, am pretty excited about it. Yeah. are they? Oh, never mind. I was like, man, are they backing off? They're not backing off though. Damn, they're just fighting everywhere right now. Jeez. I think it's 17. Yeah. Okay, a little chasey chase. Nice, like a DPS. Yeah, Jan messaged me in game. I'm R4 named Wrecking Ball in Servitude, One Alliance, LCM, and FMU, and I will help you with this game. Just issuing out all his creds. Just throwing his cover letter out there in live chat. Look at that, man. They're pushing him back a little bit. Dude, absolutely. Dude was over on a 5 March Mage part of season. Nice. Me almost full infantry kind of, yeah. Man, I'm sure we'll get there. Are we at 88? Yeah, man. Dream, what's up, man? Welcome. Bossy asked for mage help. Nah, man. Listen, I'll put out, this is the one thing, man. Like, I really enjoy putting out that educational content where it's, me kind of sharing with people like, hey, what's the most used? What are the top players running? Because I think it helps out a lot. And that's whether it's just like March compositions, if it's war pets, artifacts, if it's heroes in general, just kind of helping with like long-term investment. Those are things that I think are really important. And we can even go deeper too as well. Like I've even thought about, well, man, maybe what we could do is once we figure out like what some of the top pairings are, top heroes, why not ask and say, hey, is anyone willing to share their talent pages with us, right? So we can kind of see how some of the top players build. That could even be like a next step. But I think I'm gonna wait. I think I'm gonna wait to do that one because when I put the video out yesterday about, hey, here's what the top open field marches are, right? From basically the top 202 players that I had reached out to. And, we got about 40, 20% or so response rate, which I thought was pretty good for the first time, especially because I hadn't done that in a while. I thought it was the fact that people were totally okay, with sharing and the amount of people that shared the first time. But I thought, this is a really nice thing because people can learn from it. Like they can see for themselves. And even whether you're a new player, you're an existing player, whether it's you kind of learning or figuring out like, hey, wow, this is actually what's being ran right now as the meta. Or if it's just, okay, this is just kind of confirming what I already thought was good. Or if it's maybe opening up other ideas for what other players or some players could try to run. But it also made me think about, well, maybe we can take this a step further. And instead of having it just be best open field marches, why don't we all these MFS guys are like running a bunch of cav right now, dude? This is wild too as well because I've been seeing like a decent bit of cav already. But also just in the sense of, okay, well, now it got me thinking, okay, well, when we do the next survey, we do it from the top fighters right in the game. So we would look at the top 200, the top 300 fighters, right, based on merits, right, merit performances for this upcoming KVK, right? So at the end of the KVK, we'll do another survey. And I thought, okay, well, this is kind of hitting two things for me. Because one, it's hitting on one side, right? It's hitting this front of, okay, well, now where am I going with this? So it's hitting the side of, well, now we're able to cover the season, right? So we can look at the best open field marches for that season, right? Along with kind of / current meta trend. And then we can also have it be something where we allow for people to see like who are the top performers in the most recent season, right? Kind of already at the end game. So I feel like it could really hit multiple areas. And I think that's what really excites me about being able to do something like that, at least the next round. Yeah. SO, what's up? Did you know that we could switch 600k troops in this event, not 300k like it was shown in game? I saw someone talk about that on the COD Discord. They said something about 600k. I thought I had read. But I wasn't sure if it was exactly it. If that's the case, I mean, that seems nice that you're able to do a double or more than 300k. And if that was the case, I imagine it was probably, I don't know, maybe a glitch or something. Let's see, 600k. Yeah, someone just posted, Sniper said he was able to do 600k T40 T5. There you go. Oh, and Jasper said earlier today, Jasper said on here, just like how I got 600k archers from them re-releasing the conversion since it broke. Yeah. Look, there you go. Okay. Oh, can I put this on oh, you got, okay, let me see. Found you. What's this? This is mage versus what? $126. It's not bad. Was it rally? It was a rally? Oh wow, 826. Damn, that's a lot of 7 wounds there. I like how it says 300k 23, but obviously it's the first. Yeah. Oh, this is this is open. Okay, this isn't a rally. Oh, I guess because I probably would have seen cities or something on it, huh? It's actually not bad. Wow. I mean, just like sitting there and not getting focused, allowing for you just to put a lot of damage out. That doesn't seem bad. Oh, my bad. You're not going to take any deaths in open field. Yeah, no, it's not bad. Yeah. This morning. All right. So I got some exciting stuff, right? So I want to do a couple things here. The first thing I want to do, right? And again, this is the only action that's really happening right now. But what I want to do is I want to go through, because we got 2 videos we got to react to, right? One is a Chisgul video about jumping that's in Rock, but obviously there's still some similarities for COD. Second one is a video that Omniarch put out, I think like a week ago, that also talked about jumping. But I also want to talk about, maybe we'll talk a little bit about some like Dimension Duel updates. But the third thing I do want to do, and I want to try and do that first, is I want to go through some suggestions. Because I, for one, love being able to kind of go through, and I'm talking about the suggestions specifically on the COD official Discord. I don't know if people often go through these, but I often feel like there can be some sweet gems in there. We might do some COD projects reviewing, maybe some Rock project reviewing. Again, I mean, we got a couple things on the docket today that I'm pretty excited to do. Again, I know some people were kind of bashing the Dimension Duel hate, along with, let's be real, the exchange. And I don't know if there was another event as well and the second anniversary where some people were just not happy and or pleased with what was happening. But yeah, if anything comes up, then yeah, we could definitely chat a bit. Okay, so let's do this. I want to go through real quick, and I'm going to open this up a little bit more here. Let me skadoosh this on over too. So let's go through and see if we can, because man, I love going through and reading these and just kind of seeing, because to me, when we go through things like suggestions, I feel like it really opens up a I feel like it really opens up this avenue of looking at what are like the trending pain points for some people in the game. So let's go through, let's read some. And if you got thoughts on it for a yay or nay as I read, and we'll go through, let me know. Oh crap, hang on. I have to read the ones that actually got, oh, I see. These are submitted. It's just showing me, I can just also see when it removed it. Okay. Got it. Okay. So first one here. So Tinsy submitted this. Dear devs, as we've heard, y'all are wanting to destroy the mage tree. Why is it so dramatic, my guy? Shit, Tinsy, man. Also, if you guys are enjoying the stream, man, make sure you throw us up, because it helps out a lot. Okay, dear devs, as we've heard, y'all are wanting to destroy the mage stream and make thousands of lives miserable. Wow, okay, it's already getting really deep. If or when you decide to implement that permanent long-range warfare, at least give us mages something in return for having to deal with archers demolishing us. Jeez. Potential things to add. Increased skill damage when fighting archers, make this research so someone have to remind me on this, because I was under the impression that when long-range warfare was originally introduced, that you ended up taking a little bit of a damage debuff for having the increased range. That's what I remember. So it says, give us more defense-based stats on mage units. Increase. Okay, thank you, Dream. I thought that was the case when I read it. No, I don't know how much it was. You said it Phil targeted. Okay. Oh, was that a typo? Maybe there. But and again, I'd have to go back and watch one of my videos for exactly what it did. But again, my understanding was it lowered a little bit of the DPS, but it increased the range to have the same distance as very long range or very far, technically, as what mages had. So it says increase merits. Tinsy says increase merits gained with mage units could potentially be merits gained from skill damage increased by 10 to 15%, maybe even 20. Okay. So I think the thing to understand is that we don't know. Let's understand. We don't know what's going to happen with long-range warfare, right? We don't know. And this is funny to me. Dude, if you look at some of the memes, which is diabolical, some of these, about long-range warfare over the past couple days. Look at this, dude. Annual says, here's how the two different groups are different. Or sorry, here's how the two groups are different. Reaction to LRW troll news. Fake mage main, I don't want to fight on equal terms. True mage main, LRW or not, I'll still crush them. It just, dude, it's absolutely hilarious. Oh my gosh, hang on. Where was this other one? Oh god, there was another one on LRW. This one was funny. I actually thought this was funny. Mage mains right now. I'd like to speak to a manager. It's good, man. It's good. Dude, this one, Emperor Palpatine. Archer main with no LRW. I'm too weak. Exact same archer, unlimited power, and then people were just posting massive stuff. And then Payne had this one here where he said, these suggestions are a meme in and of itself. People need to get a grip. My God. And then someone posted elk riders. I don't get it, man. God, let me see. Was there another one I thought somebody posted one more here. Oh yeah, thank God. It was too good. All right. Okay, let's go back. I want to finish reading this. So what are my thoughts on this Tinsy one? Oh wow, did one of you guys just X this? So what are my thoughts on this? First and foremost, we don't know what's going to happen. So I might actually just opt out of just voting on anyway, because we don't know how it's going to be. However, I guess this is technically a hypothetical. So do we think that mages should be given more base stats? I mean, my whole thing is if they do it the same way, I mean, first and foremost, let's say they actually add long range warfare back in. Keep in mind that this was a seasonal policy. It wasn't passively added into the game forever. It was only for that season. So do we think that, okay, they might test this out another season? Or do we think it's going to just get perma added? I don't think it's going to get perma added. I think if anything, they test it out another season and get feedback. If it acts the same way it did before, then archers will have a little bit less DPS, but they'll have the increased range. So I personally don't think that this needs to happen. So you know what? Maybe I will exit. Okay, let's go to the next one. Ooh, Silver posted something here. What do you guys say? Iggy, what's up, man? Welcome. Images got around a 10% skill damage boost. Oh, interesting. So Iggy's saying that there was a 10% skill damage boost in some passive rage regeneration that season when LRW launched. Oh, interesting. Okay. And I will say this, I think, again, I don't know if it was because of the uproar caused from that, but like I said, I recall by the time it went into effect, there was a little bit less damage it did, but it increased the range. It was like damage or some targeting factor. Or I should say. Dream says mages just got destroyed by counterattack, I think. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. D-Ball says, I will nuke them all with my mages. Okay, so what has Silver got for us? Ooh, okay. I haven't messed around with the pet breeding system yet. I don't know if I probably will. I'm curious what you guys think on this. So Silver says, change the pet breeding system, or AKA the make love system. It makes no sense for pets to disappear after breeding them. Let's be real. For a moment, the only pets people are going to be breeding are epic pets because they want legendary pets to use. Okay. Meaning that it's very likely they spent regeneration pots to get them. So them disappearing afterward just makes those pots something they could have spent to get a legendary pet directly. Okay. And then there is the fact that those pet skills had skills on them. Having two pets disappear and pulling the lowest possible legendary roll is a terrible feeling. Now, not only do I have to feel bad about getting a useless pet roll, but now I can't get the skills from the parents' pets. Oh, interesting. Or sell the skills for pet coins. So all in all, I have spent 40 regeneration pots, 2 pets, and 2 skills that I could have either used or sold for coins. I mean, this seems like a good point. All to get the same result as if I had just spent regen pots on a pet. So it's not even slightly worth it to attempt to breed my pets. Oh, I wonder if this is a problem at certain power levels, or if this is just universal across the board, as i.e., would someone who's free to play low spend have this problem, or would they be more impacted, or is this just kind of at the end game phase? I'm curious if any of you guys have done this. Do you feel that way? Like if you're basically at a point where all you're really trying to do is just min-max to get S tier skills and maximize your stats at that point because you have really good pets, but you're just trying to get them a little bit better. Is that the case? So in synopsis, please either get rid of the function where you lose your pets when you breed, or increase the chances of getting better pets from breeding. Okay, because as it stands, there is no feel-good moment when breeding. It's all feel-bad moments. It's just not worth breeding pets right now, even though it was a cool idea. Okay. Okay, so Swattic, so you're saying yes. Okay. You know what? I don't know too much, but I'll give it a green. Okay, what's this one? Oh, God, this is already starting off rough. Listen, I love these rage comments, bro. At least the ones that feel like it. Listen to your community. Okay, so you know it's already about to be a little hot and heavy. If we have a suggestion that gets upvoted more than 200 times and more than once, like if we had it with the new King feature, when this applies, you can't just think about maybe adjusting it, but you should do as we say, even if you can greed less money out of the Kings. Jeez. Oh my God. First and foremost, this is aggressive. We'll say that. Is this something that I would upvote? No. Why? Because it is poorly written It's not formatted, not constructed, and it's just kind of like a hate suggestion, right? You could get the same point across with just nicer and more competent words, let's say. Okay, what's this one? Bring back getting one slot pets for mating event. Don't remove it just because it's something the community liked and got excited about. Ooh, okay, what do you guys think on this one? Is this a yay? Bring back getting one slot pets from the mating event. Don't remove it just because of some of the community likes. Okay. I'm not sure on this one. So I will have to. Okay. So Iggy says, yes, this was amazing. Okay. All right. We'll upvote. Okay. Next one. Pasta did this one. Okay. Devs really need to buff I've been hearing about the G3 mages thing here. Is this legit? Because I haven't seen any data to support this either way. It's just been kind of speculation or things that people have said. So devs really need to buff G3 mages, Thundel and Thea as examples. They are absolutely garbage. After Mu came out, which is technically a Gen 2 hero, Mu Thea is doing way more damage than Gen 3 mages. People spend more money on this game, and devs are basically screwing all the mage players. Archers get better season by season, but so far mages are stagnant in terms of power creep. You got Gen 1 combo Lily of Velen, a Gen 1 and 2 combo Mu Thea, out damaging a Gen 3 hero is just outright embarrassing. So I wonder, do you guys care about this that much to a point where you feel that the latest gen or the newest hero absolutely needs to be the strongest version in that troop type? Or are you okay with this hero has a specific use and then another hero has a different specific use? Because part of me feels like that would almost be a better case than, then the devs just kind of doing the basic, okay, well, here's the newest hero. It obviously is the strongest. We want you to run it and power it up, which kind of feels, I guess when I really sit back and think about this, probably seems like that just is their game plan most of the time, right? Because if you're releasing a hero and it's new, it's interesting, it's got maybe some hype around it, you obviously want people in the community to spend money on it because it is the new thing. Right? Why are you going to make all that effort releasing a new hero if no one's going to end up buying it? So, but I don't know. To me, this just kind of sounds like this is basic Kingdom Builder hero release logic, which is, we release new heroes, get people excited. They have to be good enough that people want to spend money on them. But do they need to be the absolute best version or the new best hero within that hero type set? I don't know. It's an interesting thought. Yeah. Yes. Swat. Yeah. Jan's like, yeah, the issue is always this, right? Wide above G3 if sometime we saw some just bad building. And see, oh my God, that is such a great point, Jan. And this is something that I was actually thinking about yesterday when I saw people talking about something in the COD Discord. And I thought to myself, man, how many people might just be having bad builds? How many people maybe just aren't optimizing appropriately? Maybe it's a bad war pet that's attached. Maybe it's not the best optimized talent tree that they could be running. And what if that is skewing the results that they're seeing in the open field, in rallies, when they're fighting? And that makes them think, it gives them like this false sense of I guess an unrealistic approach or unrealistic expectations that they may have for the newest heroes that come out. And part of me wonders, is that the case? Because the fact is it's not like there's one group that's out there just straight up testing everything, making everything public, and then saying, okay, here's the truth behind it. Like, no one's done that. I think Guns has done a little bit of testing and some other people have done testing, but no one is out there saying, well, we're going to test every single pairing. We're going to test every variation. We're going to try at least the popular ones, testing maybe popular talent tree layouts, testing maybe 2 or 3 or 4 different war pet combinations, maybe some different artifact combinations. Like, is there a group that's really stress testing those things to then come out and say, okay, now we feel confident in saying that, yeah, G3 needs to be buffed a little bit more, or these particular heroes do. So, and then on top of that, do these particular heroes have value? Do they have usage? in a specific area, even if they may not be the strongest, are they still viable to be used or not? So no, I completely agree there. I feel like part of it is like, I want to see some data behind that. I don't want people just to be like, oh my God, you know, I'm in the field and there's so many X factors on like how many people are targeting you, who are you targeting? And it's like, you know, and then you look at your reports after and you think to yourself, oh man, I'm totally getting screwed here. So I just, yeah, part of me feels like with something like this, you really have to look at the data and you have to look at a lot of reports, but you also have to understand that when you're out there fighting in the field, that's not where you're doing a controlled stress test, right? A controlled test is where you're doing like a 1-on-1, a 2-on-2, maybe a 5-on-5, right? Like you're doing things that are usually even numbers because you want to try and see what the raw data is telling you from a report. When you're out in the field fighting, it's like, it's, you know, it can be anarchy. It could just be anything goes. And because you're not in a controlled environment, you know, part of me, I guess I'm just, to put it simply, I feel like there's just a lot of factors. That's what I'm trying to say, is that if you really want to do this properly, you have to do a controlled environment test first to see what the numbers look like from new heroes that are being released. And then you can maybe go from there. Iggy says Thalia is pretty meh. Okay. They do all right, but not amazing. Some of us were happy until they released Moo and we regretted our Thalia investment. Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. Beans, what's up? It's important that new heroes are the strongest so that the devs can make money. Yeah, otherwise people will just continue using what they already have. And like I said, I'm not against that. I'm not against if people want to come, if the devs want to come out, and again, that seems to obviously be the case on Rock and other games where it's like, yeah, you probably want the newest hero to be appealing, to be eye-catching, and probably maybe to be a little bit stronger than whatever else is out there. Maybe not to say it's OP, but yeah, maybe to be a little bit stronger so you can recoup the investment you've put in. I understand that much. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, even if it is the newest hero, you're still going to need up to 5 marches at the end of the day. So it's not as though one hero is necessarily going to make or break. I mean, maybe a pairing here or there might. Yeah. Iggy says Thunderland has amazing usage. Okay. Mobile says the issue is people only look number go up or down. Number up, number down. I hit stronger, I hit weaker. But what if that G3 hero marches through debuffs or making your other marches getting 15%, 20 more damage? And that's a good point. Part of me feels like that can inflate how people feel about certain compositions, certain matchups, and certain marches. And that just kind of goes into those X factors. Like, who's to say you don't get debuffed, you're out there fighting, it happens to you consecutively, and now all of a sudden you think this hero pairing that, let's say, on average performs well, is all of a sudden performing bad for you, and then you go and complain, and maybe a few other people have it, and then it just becomes this megaphone effect, right? It's like this confirmation bias of just because you have a few people in your group saying yes, and you're speaking the loudest, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is absolutely bad or that it's weaker. No, absolutely. Like I said, I think the problem is that there's just too much he said, she said right now, right? I don't know anyone that's doing thorough testing. I'll tell you this much. If I had an account that was big, I would organize this with people. Like, I would just organize a day, I'd track the data, I'd make it public, and I'd say, look, this is what we're going to test today. So we can really find out kind of what it is. And that way, then you get a better idea on, okay, well, open field matchup, how does maybe the Rally Garrison matchup look? I just feel like that's the thing. But the problem with doing those kinds of tests is that, you know, again, who's going to want to sit there and do a lot of those tests, you know, unless you're like mid-heavy spending and you don't mind spending the resources on the troops that you're either getting sent to the hospital, or if you're doing Rally Garrison testing, the ones that are dying. Right. And that's the other part of it is like, yeah, I think as much as people would really want to do proper tests, how much incentive is there to test for a long period of time to really make it? So an example, let me give you an example. Infinity Kingdom had this thing where you could test matchups for free. Didn't cost you anything. So it was its own mechanic where you could go in and plug in the commanders or heroes on marches, what their talent tree loadout was, what their accompaniment was, so like a war pet artifact example, and then you could test out your march against those. To me, it almost feels like that's what we need. We need some kind of like training ground, some kind of building or area you can go into where anyone can join it, and you can kind of do these thorough tests. Anyways, okay. So undecided on that one. All right, let's go to the next. Damn, this one has a lot of no's. Okay, allow war pet trading with anyone. Oh, interesting. For example, if I have a dead account in server 346, this is now all of a sudden becoming oddly specific. I want to be able to transfer the war pet I spent so much money on to a newer account. I'm going to be honest. Okay. Do I think the idea at face value sounds okay? Sure. However, when we dig deep into it, this is no different than someone who is a mid-high heavy spender just straight up funding people's accounts, which, to be fair, obviously can be done anyways. But you could have just a number of top players, strong accounts, heavy spending accounts that just are out there getting the best of the best stuff and then throwing those pets to other players. Now, obviously, things like RSS transferring is nothing new. There are a number of players in the game that are big top players. They spend a good amount on their accounts, and they share a lot of resources with players in their kingdoms. This is nothing new. But I don't know. Part of me feels, I shouldn't say I don't know. Part of me feels as though this could really get out of hand. I understand what they probably want to do is it's probably just, right, maybe for whatever reason, they don't want to play on their account, but their account just ends up having like this one really good thing that they wish their current account had, right? That could be the case. But in other cases, you can't just look at it in the one way. You have to look at it at how it would be applied globally in the game to other players. So to me, I think I probably would go no on this. I don't know if I'm sold. I just feel like this, it could turn into, now, maybe the dev team looks at this and they say to themselves, oh, wow, people would spend more money on war pets and then just transfer them to other people in the kingdom, which makes them spend more money. Maybe they take a second look at that and like, okay, maybe. It's funny. Yeah, Reaper, what's up? Yo, was that video with the top 200 players gave you March's Sybil 3 and 4? Was that real or were they trolling? That was real from what I know. There was one player out of the top 202 that did send me some straight troll marches that had basically just a bunch of gathering heroes. It was like Kella and Chakcha and oh god, I just can't remember the rest. Yeah, so someone actually did do that and it was only one person. And the screenshot they sent me basically was just like blue and purple heroes, and half of them were half of them was gathering heroes. So like that one to me was an obvious troll. Sorry, you're saying the Thunderland Sybil March wasn't a troll? Again, I don't know. I'd have to look because from my understanding, let me see here. Oh, I see. Just because one's magic, one's archer, one's marksman. Maybe. That one might not have been super obvious to me. Possibly it could have been. Maybe, but keep in mind, even if that was, like, let's say as an example, there was one troll march out of the 5 that they had. It wasn't like they sent me all 5. You know what I mean? So maybe, I mean, listen, I'll say this. Everyone that I've reached out to has always been really nice and really willing to share, which I always appreciate. You know, again, my hope is that everyone is just honest about what they're sharing because it's something that I'm going to share with the community. And thankfully, I've never had a situation or a case arose or that has arisen where, it's just so blatantly obvious that, no one's taking it seriously. I feel like the majority of people do. And that doesn't mean that, some things might not slip through the cracks. And maybe that could be one. But like I said, if it was, then that would have been the one out of those 5 marches in the set that they sent me. Engineer Rick, what's up, man? Devs really need to buff infantry heroes. They're pure garbage right now. Yep. Oh, really? The one thing I really would like to see, and I need to ask Fuzzy about this, is there a way to pull data on the heroes being used? Either in the open field or maybe just being used in wars. Like I'm curious if there's a way to maybe track that. Just anything maybe about marches would be dope. Yeah. Dem boys WAO, Captain Cod, what up, man? Mobile says, like imagine losing 10% merits on one march, but that march gives your other marches 20% more merits. Excuse me, at the end, and that's worth. But you look at that report alone and say, mad trash. So you lose 10% merits on one march, but that march gives your other marches 20% more merits at the end. Okay, that's worth. But you look at the report alone and say, mad trash. Okay, that actually makes sense. Reaper says it sounds like this guy bought a bigger account. Yeah, right. No, absolutely. Okay, so let me see. What did Easy Peasy put for his son? Okay, so the 10% destruction engineer bonus on the Wilderberg faction is pretty pointless, useless due to there being a destruction speed cap in the game. I would suggest changing it to something more useful. They already have Wyvern Riders, which are the worst unit in the game. They shouldn't be handicapped more by a useless faction bonus. Spring Warden has elixir production. League of Order has gathering speed. I would change Wilderberg to something like Legion load capacity or increased resource production speed to put them more on par with other factions. This actually doesn't sound bad. I'm somewhat in favor. I felt like this was pretty straightforward and stated by Easy Peasy. Okay. Put an automatic alliance chest. Oh, this is funny. Put an automatic alliance chest opener like it opens 10 after 10 after 10 on its own. Yes, I am lazy. I do. Listen, man, some of these people, absolutely no shame. That is funny to me. Yeah, like you just don't care. I don't know. I'm conflicted now. I'm conflicted because the honesty is so genuine and pure. And that's funny. It's just somewhat funny to me. Yeah. I mean, listen, would everyone like just to have an automatic chest opener? I don't think people are necessarily against that. I feel like if you asked people, I feel like if the COD team came out and said, hey, we're considering putting an automatic chest opener in the game, right? Or even saying that, hey, it's going to come out. Dude, I don't think anyone's going to be there sitting to themselves like, you know what we don't need in the game? This super convenient automatic chest opener. All right. Well, we'll throw our support. Okay. War Pet evolution. Make your War Pet evolve into a bigger, cooler monster once their War Pet talent skill is upgraded. Huh? Oh. Dude, some of the stuff that people are just working in, it's one suggestion, man. It's not 2 or more suggestions in one. Yeah, I can't vote. I can't vote on that because there's Jesus. TPJ, where's the troop swap event gone? Apparently it was live. Okay, yeah, that's already about something that someone said. Jeez, man. Dude, I'm telling you, man, these are hilarious. I love reading through these. General Pat for physical flying troops, please. Flying heroes need the equivalent to a Shadow Manticore, Sapphire Fae, Sand, Venom Lizard, which are all just generally good pets and have many pairings. I'll have to defer this one to you guys on what you think on that one. Abdus says, oh yeah, I already upvoted this one. Remove intercepting once dimensional duel is used. This means you can indefinitely hold an alliance at a bridge or choke point by rotating in duels. Very dumb. Not supposed to be in the game. Fix ASAP. And again, they've already stated this is going to be fixed. They just said that it's going to be fixed in the next update. So we'll see how that goes. Here we go. We got the PP killer. All right, touche. We can definitely see that codes of gems increase attraction to streamers' viewership, even if by a little. I think as devs, you should give values which I think are reasonable. 10 codes of 1K gems per month to the content creators. What is it like 100K gems at the end so they can distribute them on their own videos, live streams to their viewers whenever they want? I mean, I guess I see where they're going with this. You know, the thing is, they have given us stuff to distribute and to provide. I just, I'll say this. I'm not a fan of constantly giving out codes or basically giving people where the sole reason, giving them a reason where that primary reason to tune into someone's stream is because they're going to win something. To me, those things should be icings on the cake and shouldn't be abused in a sense, or at least given out maybe all the time. Now, maybe let's say you're established, you already have a consistent amount of people that are coming in, and it's like, okay, people are kind of throwing codes. I feel like, okay, maybe a little different, but I don't know. Part of me just feels like, don't get me wrong, right? I think you could look at it the other way too as well. Like maybe people distribute codes, you get new people coming in, and maybe because those new people are coming in, maybe they do listen to you a little bit and you get some retention, right? That could obviously happen as well. Yeah. Okay, why not? We'll throw some support on that one. I mean, if it lets me click it. Okay, let me see. Rabagash says, Ion changed color name of troops on Dimensional Duel. In simple mode, the animation doesn't show up, so most people don't know if there is Dimensional Duel with the coalition. You get stuck. Okay. This sounds like it's pretty straightforward. McCraven, do not give auto-collect for villages. What about all these people who collected manually? Not fair. Dude, absolutely, man. Get out there and grind like the rest of everyone that isn't me. Make pets of their own troop type have a higher chance of getting their respective skills. So Sapphire, because it's magic pet, will have a higher chance of getting magic skills than physical. Huh, interesting. So basically make it so, oh, I see. Okay, I see where they're going with this. Like they basically want to reduce the grind and have it so there's a higher percentage chance of that pet getting a particular skill for their type versus kind of having to pick from the buffet line. I'll have to think on this one. I think a little bit more. I don't know. Because part of me feels like that's part of the grind, right? Of you having to go through that and finding something that works, right? It's like kind of playing bingo. You don't know if your number is going to get called, but you still got to fill in your lines or whatever shape you're making on your bingo card. Yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think on that one. Please make the old G2 heroes easier to obtain for free to play, like add them to the golden chess pool or something. Thanks for considering. I mean, absolutely, dude. This is a no-brainer to me. Asian Admiral, you're a godsend. I mean, listen, what have I been saying forever? Which is, they need to add heroes after they have been in the game for a certain point. They need to get automatically added to the chests, right? To the golden chest, to the gold chest, right? And I can understand you want to release a hero, and that's not to say you're going to put it immediately there, but yeah, am I okay with you releasing a hero and then 3 months go by or a season goes by, and then after that season that it's been released for, then it gets added to the gold? Absolutely. There is no doubt in my mind that I think people would appreciate the game so much more, and they'd consider it to be that much more free-to-play friendly if you took heroes, and I'm not saying remove it from spending capabilities or from events that you can win shards or sculptures, right? Or heads, if you will, for those heroes on. I'm simply saying that after a new hero has been introduced, after a period of time, preferably a shorter period of time than longer, they get added in addition to the gold chest. This is absolute, dude. And I'll tell you right now, dude, the first game that does this, as long as they're good on other things, I think that game is gonna do well, because that to me is so free to play friendly. It's ridiculous. Auto collect for villages at least. Yeah, no. Grind, bro. Grind. Okay, the chef's room. If changes have been made without anyone being notified about them, please reverse the changes of chances getting a pet with legendary attributes after regeneration. It feels like that chances are lower after the recent update. Okay. I mean, listen, am I in favor for transparency and just accountability of, you know, if you're going to make a change, post it? Absolutely. Take my arrow. What? Shocked on what that means. As more heroes will be added to gold chest pool, will be harder to gain certain heroes. For this, I suggest the following. Add a weekly favorite hero pool to the gold chest. Oh, interesting. Pandy, what up? What up, homie? Okay. Add a weekly favorite hero pool to the gold chest. So every 2 weeks, or sorry, every week, 2 legendary heroes will be the weekly favorites, and their chances of gaining them will be doubled compared to other legendary heroes. Ooh, I like this. I like how this is starting out. Oh my God. Every week it cycles to other heroes in the pool. This way you can save up keys to the hero you want is added as a favorite, keeping it more RNG friendly. Oh my God. This is not a bad suggestion. So to take this a step further, this is my thought. Let's say this a step further. So let's say you get your pool, right? You get your pool of heroes for the gold chest. And let's say that maybe you get all the heroes, but I guess they're just saying that it's 2 that will have a higher percentage each week, but you still can pull from any of the heroes. See, part of me thought the way this was going to start out was saying you can customize the 10 heroes or so that are in your gold chest, and you can pick which 10 you want to focus on. Like something else like that, I was actually thinking, okay, this is interesting. Maybe that's where they're going with this. But I do like this as well. I think this is a really good idea, where basically it's just 2 legendary heroes a week have a higher percentage chance of being pulled, so you get to use your keys for that. Dude, really good suggestion. Oh my God. Dude, take my arrow. Bro, you could take my arrow anytime, baby. Whatever that means. Tinsy, what up, bro? Yo, we just looked at your suggestion, Tinsy, too, as well. I think I downvoted it, but I still love you. My shadow. Okay, remove merits from the starting zone and home realm. Whoa, remove merits from the starting zone and home realm for servers entering the new season, only for realms with season 3. What? Only for realms from season 3 onwards. This will prevent merit trading. I can't remember. I have to go back down, Tinsy. I can't remember now. Let me see. Where was it? I thought you posted one down here. No? Was it before silver? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, no. I did downvote it. I'm sorry, Tinsy. Hang on. Let me explain, though. The only reason I downvoted this, Tinsy, was, hang on. I gave an explanation. The reason I downvoted this was specifically because of how, was because we don't know how LRW will be introduced, if it is at all. Right? So an example would be like, if you're going to say that the defense base stats on mages needs to be improved, skill damage when fighting archers needs to be improved, then you have to also say like what's going to happen with the archers for long range warfare. Now, if this is just assuming that no debuff, because remember the last time that long range warfare was introduced, archers did get a little bit of a debuff to compensate for them having increased range. So I don't think it's likely, based on what happened before, of them just a la carte giving you and saying, you know what, we're not going to debuff archers. We're just going to flat out give them increased range. I don't think that's going to happen. So that's why I'm saying I would like to see, and that's only if it gets introduced. We don't know if it's going to get introduced, but that's what I'm saying. Right now, if your suggestion was a little more broad on saying, just be, like you were giving an example of saying, well, if LRW is going to be permanent and it's going to be added, just be sure that you do something similar to what you did the first season that compensates, so that way archers don't all of a sudden become OP, like where you gave them a debuff for getting the increased range. I would be okay with that because I feel like that's a little bit more generalized. I just felt like this is too specific for a situation that we don't have really any hard details on yet. So that's the only reason why. Right? It's not to say that I generally disagree with the fact that you don't necessarily want LRW to be introduced and all of a sudden archers are just the OP thing out there. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying that when we're submitting suggestions, it's like what's that line from that Aladdin live action, right? Where Will Smith is talking to Aladdin in the desert and he says like the wish is in the detail, like the details in the detail, something like that. Oh, Tinsy says, I'm trying to prevent a waiting time of 6 months for them to do something for mages after. Oh, I see. 35% is nothing. Half their damage should be gone. They already said that. Okay, they'll do less damage based on how long they shouldn't, but we both know COD is archer mates. I mean, and see, that's the thing. Like, I want to see what those numbers look like. Tinsy says, I'm already investigating into Bahorn in case they scratch mag for mages too. I mean, listen, man, who knows? Right at that point. Petavo, what's up, man? Thank you for the sub. Means a lot. I appreciate it, man. I'm gonna give you some confetti in chat because I'm a gentleman. Okay. Shadow says remove merits from the starting zone and home realm for servers entering the new season. Only for realms from season 3 onwards. This will prevent merit trading and encourage combat between other servers. Many people stop fighting because they know they can trade merits with their secondary accounts. Interesting. Remove merits from the starting zone and home realm. Okay, I see. I think I see where they're going with this. But I think the problem that people have to... yeah, this is hard. I don't think that this should... Now, I'm initially thinking this should not get upvoted. And I say that because think about all the people that constantly merit trade just so they can meet weekly minimums and being able to buy things from the merit store. I feel like that has to be considered. Now, unless they're going to go the direction of saying, well, you should earn so many merits in KVK that it should be able to supplement when you're in home realm and or in the starting zone for the next KVK, where you still should be able to buy things weekly, daily from the merit store. Okay. If that's where they're going with that. And I guess I kind of see it both ways. Like on one end, I understand it's like, okay, if you encourage more PvP, you get more merits, and then you can use those merits after the KVK is done. And obviously you can still merit trade in zone 2 and onward. But this is like a really conflicting suggestion. What do you guys think on this? Is anyone leaning a certain way here? Because again, I can see an argument being made on both sides, where it's like I said, if you don't add it and you leave it the way it is now, you're still going to have merit trading regardless, but you're just going to have to wait until you get to zone 2 or the statue's open to fight. And if you take it away in home kingdom, and then okay, could that encourage more PvP? Sure, I could see the argument there. But then what'll happen if some people that were originally relying on merit trading in the home kingdom and in the starting zone to be able to buy things from the shop, how will those people feel? So like that to me just feels like that could be an extreme trade-off. Okay. Oh, so okay. So Penny says absolutely no. Okay. So some no's are coming out. So you guys feel pretty strongly about the okay. So this is yeah, and like I said, I feel like the extreme side on removing it is more extreme than keeping it in. Yeah. Like to me, I could see us doing no on this if maybe they made the amount of things or the cost of merits, sorry, the value of merits, the merit value per things in the shop maybe less, so you'd have an easier time buying more. Something like that, right? Tizzy says go down to the bottom of it. All right, Tizzy, we'll do it in a moment. I got you. Pedavo, in Summoner's War, there's a weekly pool of heroes. Nat 5 to Nat 3. I'm assuming that means tier. Or is that tier, or does that mean like generation? So we can try and a new coin to try there. Okay. So Summoner's War does something like this. Like I said, man, if you're talking about this one that we upvoted, absolutely. This is, I think, a really good idea that this person put. Take my arrow. And that's kind of what they were saying here, which was, right, having 2 legendary heroes a week that just have a higher percentage of pool when you use a gold key. So that's interesting that you're saying Summoner's War does something like that. Is that how it is, though? Is the Nat thing, is that generations, or is that tier? Well, I guess it wouldn't be tier, right? It would be maybe legendary, but that sounds like that might be more of a generation thing, where it's like, oh, this is like a season 1 hero, season 2. Is that what the Nat stuff means? Yeah. But that's interesting that someone else is doing it. So I think I'm going to say no. Maybe we'll say no for this. But I'm going to give it a soft no. I feel like this could maybe have been a yes if it was thought out a little bit more. Okay. So Pedavo says it's quality of heroes, 1 star to 5 star. Okay. So what's the NAT? What's the NAT? What's that short for? Oh, interesting. So if it's quality of heroes, that means that you could have epics and uncommons in there. Okay. But you're saying that there's a new weekly pool. Interesting. Okay. Again, I still think it's a good idea. I feel like it's similar to what Shadow was saying. Or sorry, Arrow was saying. Okay. Hetler says, add new heroes in Behemoth Trial with PvP skill talent tree. Behemoth Trial. I'll have to defer to you guys on this one. I don't know too much on this one, so I'd love to hear what you guys think there. The Black Pearl. Why do we need to pay $400 just to migrate? Scamming in broad daylight. Oh, gosh. Okay. I will X this only because, I mean, this is just like a hate suggestion, right? Regardless if you agree or disagree, you have to formulate a proper suggestion if you want people to support it. Right. And supporting in the sense of where not just people to support it, but the COD team and the devs. You have to understand how they're going to read something and how they will be receptive to something you're saying versus what they won't. And the fact is the way that this is worded doesn't feel like it probably will get their attention. And you could have said the same exact thing, but just worded a little more eloquently. Okay. So Pedavo says Nat 5 is the best, hard to get like legendary. Okay, cool. Okay, so bad number. Dude, what a name. Bad number. Let's try again. One new suggestion about migration cost. Maybe if we suggest this every day, the devs will notice, right? We don't care if you make migration cheaper or if you add new possibilities to gain permits if you are in a dead kingdom. Or if you do anything to help players get out of a dead kingdom without spending $385, we just want something to help players get out of dead servers. Yeah. I mean, again, simple solution. You've heard me say this. Rise of Kingdoms is already starting. I mean, look, dude, it took them 6 years to finally put in or starting to work in merging kingdoms. I am all for this, but I just feel like let's try doing the merging of dead kingdoms first and seeing how that works. Now, I'm also okay. And we've talked about this before. Like if you're banishing someone or you're excommunicating them / excluding them from the kingdom, kicking them out the kingdom, I like the idea that I proposed before, which is have a banishment server or a kingdom that is just for banished players and allow those players to have an increased rate of permit gain, which is 2 permits a week that they can get, and then give them like a 10% discount. Somewhere between like a 10 and 20% discount on the amount of permits they need to migrate out. I think something like that would be a good idea. And I feel like if you did something like that, you started merging dead kingdoms / inactive kingdoms, I feel like that could solve, at least be a stepping, I shouldn't say solve, let me say be a stepping stone, right? To a solution that's a little more action oriented. Yeah. Pandy says, be a part of the solution, not the problem. Absolutely. Right. And that's the thing is like, I feel like people have to, I feel like this is, and maybe it is just common sense to me, but I just feel like if you're going to take the time to submit a suggestion, you should make an effort to write a proper suggestion. So that way it has the best odds of being seen and being upvoted, but also more importantly, being received well by the people that you want to receive it well, which is the devs. Keep in mind, you're not writing a suggestion as much as to have your peers and the community upvote or downvote it. You're writing a suggestion because you think this would be a great idea for the developers to implement, right? So you kind of have to look at it from two sides. Okay, next one here. What do we got? Yeah. And again, this is me not disagreeing. Like, I think that this is like, look, would I love for them just to go back to like the 5K gems that it costed for migration? Absolutely. I don't think anyone is getting off of that that advocacy train. Yeah. So you know what? I think I will upvote this because it is somewhat generalized a little bit. Okay, bring back turrets and barricades and combine them into turricades. What, dude? Who is submitting these suggestions? My God, I'm done. This is funny. You call them turricades, huh? Each turricade has a garrison and has to be rallied with a 30-minute burn. Oh my God, no, dude, I'm sorry. The moment that you worked in rally to barricades and turrets, or sorry, your turricades, yeah, dude, you can kick rocks, bro. Or girl, you know, depending, or gender neutral. Okay, next. Zirila, please allow us to convert honor points into something else like speed ups, resources, etc. if we are maxed level for VIP 15. I mean, damn, bro. I mean, just spender problems. Converting. Okay, so you want to be able to convert honor points similar to converting merits from the merit shop. So you want like an honor point shop? Is that what I'm hearing effectively? I mean, yeah. I will say this. Do I think it would be great if they did honor points that were only gained in zone 2s and beyond? Like, for example, in a KVK season, you can't gain honor points in starting zone, right? But you can only gain them in zone 2. In zone 2, zone 3, obviously maybe the statue areas, right, as well, yes. And then a final zone, yeah, I think that could be one step to having things like honor points be more meaningful and more of an accurate PvP statistic, right? I also think that honor points shouldn't count if you are attacking a resource tile. Just to have more of a focused emphasis on open field and rallies for what points are going to count towards. Because I just feel like the margin there has to be pretty low, where it's not going to be that bad, right? It's not like everyone is hiding in RSS tiles. You know, you're not going to, it's like everyone's 100 versus 100ing people in RSS tiles. So I feel like those two could be good. I somewhat agree with this, but it's just not specific enough. So because of that, I am going to exit. It's just not specific enough. Okay, Center Vissi. Okay, we'll do one or two more, and then we're going to do some video reactions. Okay, so we got add some activities after the dragon zone opens or shorten the season. Alliances need 1 to 2 days to reach the dragon. Because of wars, it may take longer. But almost always, after reaching the dragon, all KVK stops and everyone loses motivation to fight. Farming, small wars, behemoth captures begins. Everyone is just waiting for the results of the season, and there is nothing to do for the remaining days. I mean, listen, this person is not wrong. Maybe the problem is with the players, but after that, it really seems like everyone doesn't want to do anything. I mean, I'll upvote this, but I'll upvote this understanding. We could talk about where the challenges are with this, absolutely. Because there are quite a few, even though we could probably point to some that are very specific. But I do think that generally speaking, this is a good idea to add more events in KVK towards the end of the season. Yeah. Like, let me give you a good example. Like, here's a phenomenal example. What if, okay, I might blow your minds away with this one. So be ready. Because when I say this, some of you are going to have some Jimmy Neutron brain blast. I'll be shocked if someone doesn't go and submit this suggestion now that I just thought of it. I just had an epiphany. What if they ran PvP enticing events for things like rewards, increased merit gain for the first week of each zone opening? I mean, that's a great suggestion. That's a great idea. What if they did that? And I'm talking about in a KVK, right? So zone 2 opens for the first week in zone 2, the first week in zone 3, the first week in zone 5. They have increased, maybe it's increased merit gain, maybe it's additional rewards for going out there and fighting and maybe reaching certain milestones. And think if they did that every KVK. And I'm not saying the rewards have to be super OP, but just something. I feel like that would be a great way. Let me give you an example. They already do this, but the difference is they do this in SLE for Strongest Lord on the kill day. If you go out there and you PvP, you can get rewards. And it also factors into your overall ranking and standings. But imagine if they had specific KVK events that gave you some rewards, and it was like a 7-day period. And that could encourage more fighting in those zones. Obviously, they would have to do more than just that, right? Or even if they just did it in the final zone. I mean, take your pick. Now, again, you still have to consider matchups, starting zone placements. There's obviously other things to fix. But to me, this seems like a golden goose of an idea, right? Maybe they might have to do some fine tuning, but I, for one, am biasly on board for it, and clearly Jan Swadek is as well, so that's all we need. We're off to the races now. But I am curious on what some of you others might think as well, if you like that idea. Okay, next one here. Can you please put Legendary Mew and Born in Tavern? Keep pulling her epic heads, but I can't even use Absolutely, dude. Listen, anytime someone suggests something for adding more people to the tavern, especially for Gold Chest, I'm a fan. Hello, since last update, my allegiance to humans and heroes. Okay, no. What's this? Balance for archers, PP killer. Slightly increase of march speed and a passive where if they're receiving damage from their back, they reduce it by 5 to 15%. The idea is to increase a harassment poke gameplay. So they go in, deal some damage to the enemy mages, and when they retreat, they don't get annihilated. I feel giving them the same range as mages, even with less damage, is kind of not ideal, as that's the main differentiation faction of both units. I think they meant factor. Plus, archers would seem more ideal as then whenever you get closer to them, they just deal more damage while mages don't. Maybe make it so the further the mages are, the more damage they deal, while the closer archers are, the more... Okay, that's actually somewhat interesting. But at the end, I feel the main issue of archers is that there's barely any infantry players. So if you don't have a strong front line, you become the front line as an archer. Is it just me, or is this person making a little bit of sense? Or am I crazy? What do you guys think on this one? Chris, what's up? Hey there, how we doing, man? We're doing good, man. We're doing good. We are, we're trying to solve Call of Dragons, essentially. No, but seriously, we're going through suggestions and just kind of talking them out and seeing that there's been some good ones, man. Some nice gems that we found so far. I think the problem here is I feel like if you're gonna suggest to balance something, you need to. Chris is when you figured out. Let me know so I could slap when I get T5s. Touche, touche. This is my thing, right? I feel like if you're gonna suggest balancing ideas, you need to address what the problem is first and give some numbers, some data, or at least something specific to address. Okay, here's the obstacle we're facing. Here's the suggestion I'm giving. And here's what I hope it will earn us. Like, here's what I hope the result will be. Because balancing is kind of a tricky pickle there. And I somewhat see what Killer's saying here, but part of me feels like I just need some baseline context. I don't know. What you guys let me know what you think on that one. Oh, this is good. So Mireille says the opportunity to apply for a title if you already have one. Oh, I see. I like this. So basically being able to like rejoin the queue after you already have the title because you have to wait again to get it. Huh. Okay. I know. No, hang on now. Hang on. Well, pump the brakes. The problem with something like this suggestion is not specific enough, because let me give you an example of what could happen in the absolute worst case. And I'm sure some people probably already have the idea. You could just have someone who's just back to back applying for the same title the moment that they get it. And all of a sudden, they're the next in line. They apply for it again. They're the next in line, or they're really close. So this is not specific. And because it's not specific enough, I'm going to exit out, because the worst case could be really bad. Now, maybe they don't mean that, but again, the devil is in the detail. Thank you. Okay, maybe this is the last. Maybe this is the last one we'll do. With migrating, historical highest power is what determines number of permits required. My suggestion: if a player loses power by, let's say, a lot of dead troops, going from 100 million to 85 power overall due to permanent losses, should lead to less permits. I agree with this actually. Dude, I'm shocked that someone is finally saying this, because I am absolutely of mind that I'm okay with you having a historical power stat, but in no way in the right mind do I think that your permits should be based on your overall historical power. I am okay with it being based on your current historical power. And that would be if you incur a lot of deads and you go down to where your current total power with being fully healed is lower than what you were going into the KVK. I am okay with that being what the permits go off of. That actually makes some sense to me. And it would save some of the people some money. And it would encourage people to fight more as well, especially if they were already planning on migrating. And it gives them an out too as well, but it doesn't like mean that, you know, they're not going to still have to spend money. They just will probably spend a little bit less, or they just don't have to get as many permits. I'm all for that. But let me finish reading. Okay, why? Because the average player losing that many troops is massive. Even if they are T5, that's a heavy loss. And if they are migrating, it should be cheaper because they likely got rallied because of two reasons. Well, rallying or we're doing the rallying. Player was in front lines with AFK. Their alliance was angry and they kicked the rally. Jeez. I don't know why it has to be so aggressive. And if they are migrating, it's probable that they no longer are wanted in that kingdom. So that being said, it's logical to allow cheaper migration under the circumstances that they actually had deaths. If they lose 5 million power but troops are in the hospital, then that doesn't count. Okay. I'm actually okay with this. I think this is actually a pretty good suggestion. I think it's pretty decently written. I think there could have been some more things added to it, but at its core, I agree with this. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. Dude, where are we at right now? Oh gosh, we're almost an hour and a half. Okay, what else do I have on my docket? I got a couple things for us right now. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we are gonna do some. We're gonna do some. Let's see. I gotta see if I can find it. Okay. I hang on. I gotta get past the ad first. Dude, this thing is not letting me mute this. Okay, hang on. I need to refresh this because it is not letting me pause this video that I want us to look at. Genesis, yo, what's up? Welcome. Okay, cool, awesome. So we were able to pause this. Let me. Okay, so I wanna react to this video that Omni put out. This is a video that that he made, and oh god, hang on. Let me. Wow, I'm like really. On it right now. Oh my gosh, hang on. There's like some stuff that's missing. Yeah, there's like some stuff that's missing from this. What did I do? Dang. Okay, maybe we'll just do it this way. This might be fine. Okay, yeah. But so I want to react to this. So again, Omni put this video out talking about jumper groups are done for in Rise of Kingdoms. Now again, a lot of us know in COD that, you know, for the most part, jumping has really, I mean, again, they did remove it, but they did it earlier than they did Rock. Rock had this for far longer, right? It was 6 years compared to West, which is basically a year, right? Year and a half, give or take, that jumping was a thing. And then obviously, you know, it got removed. Well, I guess it got removed recently, but you can still do it. It's just, again, it was a much shorter lifespan for COD than it was for Rock. So let's watch this. We're going to react to it. And I'm really curious to kind of hear what he says when he talks about.
Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but based on this in-game mail, it seems like Rise of Kingdoms just completely killed the ability for new players to jump to new servers, thus ending what we would once call a jumper project. So today, let's talk about it, the pros, the cons, my thoughts and opinions and everything. But first, of course, what's going on, guys? Rise of Kingdoms. We hope you enjoy the game. Now, for those of you who are unaware, a beginner's immigration item was effectively an item that you would get similar to a teleport that would allow players under, I think you had to be under City Hall level 8. So as long as you were City Hall level 7 and below, I believe, then you were able to not only teleport to a location, but actually teleport to an entirely new kingdom. So what players would do is they would create an account in a brand new server. They would play the game for a few days, and they would get as strong as possible in those few days while maintaining the City Hall requirement, staying under that level. They would do all of the early server events, and they would chain barbarians, or not chain necessarily, but fight barbarians, right? And I'm not here to tell you that jumper groups are bad, because there are definitely good things about jumper groups, and I will try to remember to talk about that later in this video. But as far as I'm concerned, this change is probably one that they should have made like 2 years ago, at the very least, right? I think that the writing was kind of on the wall here. I feel like they've constantly, and by they I mean the developers, have constantly been making sort of updates to the way that you can immigrate in the early game. They've also made updates to nerf the ability to go back to kvk 2, for example, right? So there's been lots of instances over the last couple of years, I would say, where they would make it harder and harder for old players to ruin the experience of new players, so to speak. And so removing the beginner's immigration item is not that surprising to me. I think they probably should have.
Okay, so what I will say here is there's, at least for what he said so far, there's two completely different things people have to understand. Being able to migrate, like what we know with permits and what they know with migration scrolls or whatever they're called there, I'm forgetting now, passports. that's you taking an established account from an older kingdom, older season to a newer kingdom, newer season. I'm not saying the newest season, the newest kingdom. And with an immigration, with a beginner's immigration, what you're talking about is taking a slightly boosted account that is new, that was capped at having to stay at level 7 or CH7, so you couldn't really go. Now, again, if you did it the other way, there's a little bit of a workaround here, right? I think people refer to them now as sleepers, which is funny because I didn't realize like what I had done before after it was first introduced, and we did it basically because our project, when the update dropped in Rock, we actually did this, and I guess people are now coining the term sleepers. And I finally heard someone explain what it was, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we did this right after the update dropped. We just didn't call it anything, right? We called it quad jumping back when you could do it, and then obviously triple jumping once they removed you being able to have 2 beginner immigration teleports. But what he's talking about is on one side, it's using permits to migrate an established account into a younger kingdom, younger season, versus using your beginner immigration item, which only lets you max out at level 7, and then you go into the newest kingdom, ideally, right? So again, it's not necessarily an apples to apples. He's really talking about 2 completely different things, so I don't really count that as being, oh, well, this is a factor, right?
Done it a very long time ago, and I know that, you know, this is probably not an unpopular opinion, but this is a good thing for the health of the game. Truthfully, it just is. And you know, this video that I'm recording is not a sponsored video. Okay, the developers did not sponsor this video. I know I'm a partnered creator with Rise of Kingdoms,
sure they wouldn't.
And you know, you might say that I'm biased here, but
yeah,
the
you
truth
are.
is that you can go back through the years of me making content, and I've been very consistent with my opinion on the fact that things that are bad for brand new players should not be in the game, right? I know when they removed the ability to, or severely limited the ability to migrate back to kvk2 on day 1, I was saying, you know, I know that people like doing this, but it's for the health of the game. I understand that and I support it. And so once again, I find myself in the exact same scenario over and over and over again, where, you know, this was a very popular strategy for veteran players, but it was not good objectively for the health of the game. And again,
okay, so I just want to state this for the record, right? Veteran players and people who were playing for a while did use this, but this was also widely used by new players as well, right? That's a major component here that I don't know if he will touch on. Secondly, I want to point out that nothing OmniArc has said so far specifically speaks to what are his reasons, validations, justifications for why he feels this is mostly a good idea on it being removed. I haven't heard one yet, right? He's made like 2 comparison examples, but nothing that specifically is towards why this should be removed. So again, let's see if he does specifically say anything.
It's not to say that there's only bad things happening here, like a jumper group. You know, the thing about jumper groups is that it's a community oriented project. It's a community organized project that brings lots of players together and effectively forms its own sub community within the game. And that's really good for the health of the game for that community, right? If you have a group of 100 people that are all doing a jumper group together, then you are a part of a community and you're more likely to enjoy your time playing Rise of Kingdoms. You're more likely to continue playing Rise of Kingdoms. And also, you know, it's let's be honest here, jumping is, or was I should say, a good strategy for free-to-play players, right? Because they could get a couple of days of advantage before, you know, the whales start to whale up in that new kingdom. So it's not like jumper projects were all bad, but the problem is that when you have 100
so I will say this, man, it's nice that he acknowledged, and he said something really important here that I don't know how many people really caught. He said a couple days worth of an advantage, which really is in actuality just the gosh darn truth. Because no matter how hard you grind and no matter how much you min max, even if you perfected, which is not a word, but we're just going to say it is for now, your account 100 over 100 for everything you could do as a free to play within those, you know, what usually is about 6 days, you still would only be maybe there for a couple days, right? And once people start spending, you know, you will effortlessly be lost on that, you know, post first week.
veteran players jumping into a new server with a 3-day advantage, or however many days you've been waiting, it really crushes the competition in that new server. And some of those players that are in that server are, most of the players are organically new players, right? And so these new players see that everyone around them is gaining all this power so quickly, and they don't know what to do, and these big alliances are forming and they're not a part of it. They're excluded, they can't join because it's part of a jumper group and they're maxed out already, right? And so it causes tension there. And as a new player, you know, for me, back when I started playing, jumping might have been a thing, but I literally started like at launch. Okay. And so the only people that have played longer than me are the people who played in beta, basically. And so, you know, jumping might have been a thing, but it was not a big organized like strategy that, you know, everyone knew about. It wasn't a thing. So I didn't have to deal with it when I first started playing, but I can imagine how frustrating it would be if I just started playing a brand new game on day one and I realized that on day one I'm already multiple days behind other people, simply because I didn't know that the meta was to like create a new account and then like hold it back artificially and then like plan with a bunch of other people to like move to another kingdom. It just it's not a strategy that brand new players were using, right? Some were, because they would like go, you know, and look on YouTube and all this other stuff, but like most players were not doing that. They were starting in a kingdom, they were, you know, just playing the game organically. And, you know, based on this, I suspect that the developers have, you know, kind of weighed the pros and cons and said, you know what, it's actually just not worth it to continue to allow jumper projects to exist, because there's a chance, and a good chance I would say, that it ruins the new player experience for organically new players just trying Rise of Kingdoms for the first time, right? And the truth.
Okay, so I was waiting for him to kind of get to a stopping point. So two things he said here. One is that is the jumper environment truly ruining the new player experience? I would argue no, it's not. And let me cite some specific reasons here. For someone who has done a number of jumper projects, thank you, across 3 different games, I have ran some of the largest, if not the largest, jumper projects in Rise of Kingdoms history, in Infinity Kingdom history, and damn sure Call of Dragons history. No one in Rock that I know of has ever ran projects with 12 to 15 alliances worth of play. And I'm talking having those ready to go on zone 1. Most projects are like 2 to 4 alliances, give or take. Maybe you'll see some on the higher end at like 5 or 6, but it's usually very minimal. Most of the time, there's like that 2 to 4 sweet spot. I'm over here running projects. Keep in mind, the very first project I ran, and every project I've ran, has never had less than 6 alliances that we've had going into zone 1. Oh, sorry, going into the home kingdom or a new kingdom. So again, I'd like to believe I got a little bit of cachet and know a decent bit of what I'm talking about, because I've also done jumping quite a bit and also, like I said, in 3 different games. So what I'll tell you is that part of what Omni is saying here is not necessarily wrong. When you go in to, so I hear Chris is like, so I hear a new project coming. We'll see. I just postponed. I just stopped my recent project that we were running just because we just didn't have enough people that wanted to lead alliances. We had really great participation and it was really good numbers for people that were interested in doing it, but I just didn't have enough leaders. So we'll see if maybe we restart it up at a later point. But let me get to the first point, the first part that he addressed. So it is true that if you are a new player and you have a alliance or 2 or more alliances worth of players that are going into a new kingdom and they've already boosted their accounts, obviously even more if you spend, you might look at that and say, and I'm going to make a great parallel here in a moment. You might look at that and say, okay, well, you know, this alliance is taking over all of the zone 1 objectives. They're not allowing anyone to get to any level 1 passes. They're grabbing so much territory because they're stronger than everyone else, so no one's really building that near them. You can argue that having a little bit stronger of alliances in the beginning can act as a deterrent in a number of different areas. However, what I will tell you is that this on average happens anyways. This is just the New Kingdom experience. The only difference is that doing it with jumpers is a little bit more exacerbated. It's a little bit more accelerated. But don't get it twisted. This happens in every New Kingdom. And this is just the standard way that it happens. The only thing is that just having a little bit more power allows for you to have a bigger stick. That's all. It's the same stick. It's the same brand. You got it from the same pile. The only difference is that yours might be a little bit thicker and a little bit longer, and it might hurt more when you hit someone with it. That's the only difference. The second part is that when you are going in to a new kingdom as a project, it is incredibly important to understand that the way that that kingdom plays out and the way that that new player experience is felt is, especially when you're talking about a project landing in a kingdom, is absolutely the result of how that project acts when they go into that kingdom. What is that project's goals? I'll give you an example. I'll give you a couple. Some projects, when they go into a kingdom, they just want to be the number one alliance. They don't care about anything else. They want to be the number one alliance, and they want to take everything for themselves. You might have other situations where they go in with 2 or more alliances. And what do they want? Well, maybe they just want to be the number one alliance in their zone, right? Maybe they don't want competition. Maybe they still want to take the best of the best structures, right? The altars, the statues, etc. And then maybe on the tail end or the opposite end, maybe you get some of those projects like mine that I ran, which was, okay, we want to share. We want the rising tide to lift all boats, or at least as many boats as possible, right? We want to encourage the new players to have a good experience, to not just be forced out immediately, to have places they can continue playing and grow and continue learning the game, enjoying their time playing the game, to where they don't feel like they're being ostracized. But let me also state that where he talks about like players not being able to join certain alliances, dude, this happens anyways. And Omni knows this. Just like anyone who's been playing for a while knows this. Now, you may not know as much of this if you have not done, and maybe I shouldn't say that, right, to assume that Omni would know that or not know it. But let me just simply state that when you are a new player, you will you're in a new kingdom, you're always going to have some form of a ladder climbing effect. You're always going to have some form of players wanting to climb the ladder, up the rankings, up the leaderboards, trying to get into stronger alliances. Why? Because stronger alliances at the top of the boards have a higher chance of being more active, being more engaged, being more socially active, and potentially spending more money. So, right, because they usually have a little bit more consolidation of top or strong players that are in that kingdom. So again, what he's pointing out to me, I don't really think I would say are like hard justification points on why they would remove it. To me, in my experience, these are soft points, which isn't to say that they're not points at all, but there's just a lot more to it than that. Okay.
Truth is that jumping is a very niche thing. Most players don't do it, right? And I know that it's kind of easy to forget that. For those of us that have been playing the game for years, we know about jumpers. Maybe a lot of you watching have participated in jumper groups, and it seems like a very like obvious thing to do.
So I'll say this: I disagree on the niche part, and the reason I disagree with that is because if it was niche, you wouldn't have almost every new kingdom that's being released have a jumper project in it at one point in time. And even now, if you look at places like the jumper community, JC community, which are, I believe, 2 of the biggest jumper communities in the game right now, and you go and you look at how many projects are pre-selecting kingdoms they're going to, dude, let me give you an example. Even when I was jumping in the first couple years of the game being released, I would organize and coordinate with players. We did it the old-fashioned way, where I had to look at who was posting ads and what their jump dates were, or going into their Discord servers and figuring it out. And then I would DM them and I would make a custom group chat, a DM group chat where you can have up to 10 people in it. And I would add leaders or founders from those groups. And I'd say, okay, well, hey, where are you going? This is where I'm planning to go. Where is everyone planning to go? So we can try to avoid everyone and have our projects land in a home kingdom, right? That was kind of the old fashioned way of doing it. But even then, even back then, years ago, before jumper community, JC community, before they ever existed, and before jumping became as popularized as it is now, we were still at a point years ago where you had almost, it was maybe every other, one every 3. Now it's like one every single one, maybe one every other. So again, I don't think jumping is niche at all. I think it maybe used to be niche within the first year of the game releasing. It is absolutely not niche at all. Like, this is a mainstream community. Just because it doesn't have hundreds of thousands of people doing it doesn't mean that it's niche per se, right? I would argue it's a lot bigger than I think some people think.
Right, but most players do not do a jumper project. They simply don't, because it's very time intensive. You have to go looking for one, and you have to all coordinate your efforts together. And for a video game that is something that maybe people are just playing casually on their lunch breaks at work, they're just not going to do it, right? They're not going to do it. And so in a world where jumper groups have their pros, of course, I've just gone over them, they're great for small communities, they're great for free-to-play players. The downside is that,
okay, so the only thing I'm going to push back on here is where he says most. I do disagree a little bit, because I think you have to compare the amount of new players that thoroughly learn about jumping versus new players that have no idea about jumping. So let's imagine you're a brand new player, and I'll give you my example. When I was a new player and I played in like the early, like before Kingdom 100 was released, so pretty early on, back when the game was still Rise of Civilizations. Eventually, after I had landed in after I'd made another account in an older kingdom, or a little bit older kingdom at that point, it was like in the mid, I think late 100s, somewhere around there. And at that point, I then learned about jumping. From here on out, and I started researching, and I thought, okay, well, why am I doing anything but this, right? And I understand, and I know that quite a few, or I'll say a lot, and I'll say that confidently, of players, if they fully understood jumping, you can bet your bottom dollar that most of them would do it, especially if they have the capabilities to do it and if they're willing to do it, which in my experience, when people learn about jumping, more often than not, you're signing up for that. So that's the only thing I'll push back on based on my experience. Again, maybe Omni's has seen differently from his POV.
This small subset of the community is negatively impacting like every new player that tries Rise of Kingdoms potentially, right? And I'm not here to say that all jumper projects were, ruling new kingdoms like tyrants and treating people badly. That's not the case. And in many cases, I'm sure that it's quite the opposite, right? People who do jumper groups are so invested in Rise of Kingdoms, they are so passionate about the game that they want to play it again, right? And so like a lot of times these jumper projects probably were very friendly to newer players, but the fact remains that it gives them an unfair advantage over those organically new players. And in a game that is focused around PvP and competition, if I feel like other players have an unfair advantage, I don't want to play anymore, right? And that's just the truth. And I think a lot of new players felt that way. And so I understand the developers' situation that they find themselves in, where the niche communities in Rise of Kingdoms love jumping, but on paper they can probably look at the data and be like, hey, this isn't great for the new player experience. And so truthfully, I'm surprised that this has lasted as long as it did, because really the purpose of the beginner's immigration item, like if we think about it, right, think about what is this item for? The purpose of this item is that if you and a friend both join the game around similar times, but you end up in different kingdoms, you can use that item to just move to another kingdom. Or if you find yourself in a kingdom where like everyone's speaking a language that you don't speak, or whatever the case might be, you can use this to like just move to another kingdom and just try that out, right? If because when you join, you as a new player, you don't even realize that like your kingdom makes a big difference, and it's also completely out of your control. Like if you just see an ad for ROK on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, and you just download the game, you don't realize like how big of an impact your kingdom has on your experience in Rise of Kingdoms. And so that's kind of the function of this item, right? Like you are just being placed in a kingdom against your will. You don't get to choose, the game just throws you in there, right? And so the purpose of this item is to give you a little bit of flexibility to say, okay, well, if it doesn't work out, here's a last ditch effort, right? But the truth is, like, how many people actually use the beginner's immigration item for its intended purpose? I would be willing to bet a very small number of players actually utilized it for its intended benefit, right? I feel like it was mostly used to exploit the ability to jump to another kingdom, right? So
I will say this, right? I do think it's an interesting concept he brings up, as far as if you think about what maybe was the original intent behind a beginner immigration item, or just being able to move from one kingdom to a newer one. I do think there is some merit there. I think there is a little bit of sense that that very well could have been one of the reasons. I think the challenge is that you'd have to go all the way back to maybe the beginning of the game to see if they ever spoke to why they introduced such an item. Because yeah, I mean, could we make the argument that the item wasn't originally intended for people to just mass create groups and projects and go to brand new kingdoms? Yeah, I feel like that could be a selling point. I feel like that could probably be pretty agreed upon.
You know, at the end of the day, when you have an item in the game that is more often than not using or being exploited rather than used for its actual purpose, that kind of tells you that the item itself is not doing its job, right? And so, you know, I can see where the developers would look at that and be like, okay, this actually just isn't even worth it anymore because it's just doing more harm than it is good. Ooh, we got some chests here. Let's go. Oh, 50 gems.
Yeah, so I think the challenge is that when the developers release this announcement, they didn't back it up and support it with any facts, with any data, with any feedback, nothing. And so they kind of left everything up to a guessing game and speculation. And as I've stated, from my first and foremost, that's just like the worst thing to do, just as a form of strong constructive criticism across the board. You have to give a reason. Regardless if people agree or disagree with your reason, you should still give a reason. Because again, I'll tell you in my experience, it you know, based on what some of the things Omni has said and what I've read from some other people, jumping was not as bad as I think some people maybe think it is compared to what the average new player experience is. Because in order to prove that what they're saying is accurate, you would have to go and interview or collect feedback on multiple new players across multiple new kingdoms and ask them. And you'd also have to make sure that a strong project or just a project, and you'd have to get a range of strong to like or small to big projects that were landed there and that made it all the way to the final zone. And then you'd have to ask those new players who were not a part of those projects what their feedback was. And I'm just going to tell you, like, that's a long effort. Like, that's a lot of work to do. And I'll be honest, I would only do it if I was making enough money full time to cover content.
More often than not using or being exploited. I started making rock videos, and I would say that in the summertime is usually when we see a lot of marketing for Rise of Kingdoms, right? Historically, I've noticed that it usually starts in May or June and it goes into like July or August, and I think that coincides with a lot of, you know, kids, at least in the United States, are out of school, right? And so gaming companies will typically increase their ad spending because a lot of these kids are just not, you know, they're home, they're just chilling on their phone. And so like that's a great time to get them to try out your new game, right? Or to try out your game for the first time. And so, you know, to kind of nip this in the bud now, we'll set up Rise of Kingdoms, so, you know, for a couple of months of, you know, a month and a half, 2 months of no jumper groups, and so that way all of those servers are new and organic or whatever. And then by the time, you know, May comes, we see potentially, and again, this is all speculation, I'm just going back based on what I've seen in the past, right? And as a YouTuber, I see the analytics, right? I see viewership goes up organically in the summer when there's a big ad push, right? It just is what it is. And that's why, like, I'll see like my beginner's guides get a lot more views, and also why there's usually a new civilization released every summer. Now for us, I don't think that's going to be the case this teleport. Maybe we will see stronger new player retention, right? Maybe more new players will stick around because those new servers are more just organically new, actual new players, instead of, you know, 200 veterans that are Giga Chad spenders, right? So I think the timing makes a lot of sense. I think that truthfully they probably should have done this years ago. That's my opinion.
Okay. Oh God. Okay. So 2 things he said. First and foremost, there is a way to figure this out. There is a way where data can be pulled to show you what the player retention is in Kingdoms. We have done this a little bit between Fuzzy and myself from the data he pulls from me across the game. The data is available in Rock. It's just the fact that nobody really looks at it, at least among the creators, right? And specifically, I should say, looks at it, posts it, and puts content out, or someone talks about it. But there is a way to figure this out. And again, I'll tell you this much. I wish I had data for Rock, because I would do some amazing stuff with data in Rock. Absolutely. Okay. So, right. So that's the first thing, is that you can do this. And I would argue that the retention numbers actually, and you could argue if this is going to be a hot take or not, I would argue the average player retention numbers are stronger when jumper groups go to kingdoms if they're not doing this whole mine thing, right? Like if they're not just trying to take everything for themselves and terrorize, and their objective is not, and again, it depends on their size. If it's like a smaller one and that is the goal, then yeah, I could argue that the numbers are probably going to be about the same. But if you are not, which again, I'll give you a great example. In my example, for the projects I ran, I can absolutely guarantee you that we increased player retention. In every single kingdom I've ever done a project in any game, we always increased retention. Retention probably was the highest for all of the projects I've done, because that was one of our focal points, and we knew how to achieve that. Again, he's talking about the average, but I would still make the argument that when a project goes into a, because this is how you have to look at it. When a project goes into a kingdom, if you have 100, 200, 300 players that are going in, those are usually 100, 200 to 300 players that are most likely going to play longer than the other players that are organically dropping in for the first time as brand new players. So you can kind of say that maybe you could make the argument and say that those numbers could be inflated. I could maybe see that, and I could understand if somebody wants to say it from that point of view. But because of that, you also have to keep in mind that when projects go into kingdoms, they often will provide structure. And what structure am I talking about? Structure and deterrence. Deterrence from players just going out and roguing it up and attacking anyone and everyone. That's such a huge component of projects. And a lot of projects that I have seen that are well ran have at least a component of that worked in, where they don't want there to just be crazy civil war happening. So you have to understand that that most projects' goals are to not have civil war when they're going into a new kingdom. They don't want anyone to rogue it up. And two, most of the time in projects, they are not just going out and YOLO Brick Squad 420ing everybody and attacking, right? Now, yes, maybe there could be some territory disputes here and there, but jumping has come a long way. Like, you have to understand that kind of what the origin of when jumper groups started to become a thing. What was the main reason projects were being started? Well, they were being started because players wanted to either create kingdoms in their image because they felt that they could do it better. It's kind of like it's like working at a store, loving what you do, but knowing that the company you're at isn't the best that they could be. So you go and you start your own company and you do what they were doing better. Similar idea. Some people did this at the alliance level and some people did this at the kingdom level. But again, I feel like I would give a little pushback there based on my experience, right? It's not to say that Omni's wrong. I do think that he is right in part, but I would give a little bit more of an edge to it actually benefits player retention more than it hurts it. But like I said, we'd have to, and I don't know if I'm going to say overwhelmingly, but I would be a little bit more on that side of the fence than this side of the fence. So, yeah. George, this guy. George is like, not a fan of this guy. I don't know who he is. No, man, no, Omni's a good guy, man. Like, I'm cool with Omni. I haven't talked to him in a little while, but I've always been on good terms. And I do like Omni's content.
And I do think that this is best for the game, right? Because even though you are kind of hurting that small niche community that does like to do the jumper projects, and you can make the argument that, you know, it removes this kind of community oriented aspect of the game, and jumping was good for free-to-play players and it removes that. Those are true, but at the end of the day, the most important.
Yeah, also S. Ravan, thank you for the sub, man. I appreciate you. I'm gonna get some confetti in the chat just because I love you so much.
The most important thing is that a live service game like Rise of Kingdoms has new players constantly joining, right? That is because there's always going to be old players leaving, right? Like as much as the developers can do what we want them to do, they've added commander swaps, they've added armament conversions, they've added tons of quality of life upgrades, they've increased the graphics, they've done so many really good things for the game over the last 12-18 months. No matter what, there's still going to be some percentage of older players that stop playing for reasons that are outside of the developer's control, right? They're older now, they just got married, they just had kids, they just, you know, they got a new job, and now they can't dedicate as much time to the game. Like, there's so many external factors as to why some players quit Rise of Kingdoms, right? And it's not even exclusive to Rise of Kingdoms. They quit any game, right? Whether it's Fortnite, to have new players that are sort of getting hooked into the game and enjoying the game and sort of replacing those older players at similar numbers, right? And you know, if you look on the back end and say, okay, well, we have fewer new players joining than leaving, well, you have a declining game, right? And the inverse is true. If you have more new players that are joining and joining, they actually ruin the entire game. It's just you don't notice it until months or years down the line when you realize, like, oh, there's actually not as many new players in the game as we thought, right? So all in all, you know,
and I will say this, we can actually see the numbers for this too as well. The numbers should be available in Rock. I don't know all the data people over there and what they're pulling, but I can absolutely tell you right now that if they don't have that data, I mean, my boy Fuzzy must be a freaking Wizard of Oz, because this dude can pull me those numbers, and we've done videos covering this. So part of me feels like if you're going to do a video like this and you're going to talk about what potential numbers are, but you're not showing any numbers. And again, keep in mind, Omni doesn't like do a lot of jumping, right? Like, for example, him and Chiz, Gecko, like if you look at all the creators, I have probably done the most jumping as a content creator out of at least all the ones I know of. And that doesn't mean that I'm saying, okay, well, listen to me, don't listen to anyone else. What I am saying is that you should be able to showcase some data off here, because I know the data is available to talk about what those numbers are. I guess for me, I just would have liked for him to include some of that, because I just feel like it really would have added to any of the points that he's bringing up, right? Whether it's making the case or maybe giving him some clarity to maybe speak towards it from a different approach or perspective.
As much as this might be an unpopular opinion, I think it is the cold hard truth that we did need to eventually get rid of jumper projects, and you know, we'll have to wait and see. Now, all of this,
I think the cold hard truth is you need to get
very premature, and I could be wrong about all of this.
Absolutely.
Right? Because what they're saying here is that they're suspending the distribution of beginners immigration items. That's not to say that they won't tomorrow release another mail saying, hey, we're getting rid of the beginners immigration, but we're implementing this new beginners warp item, and it effectively does a similar thing but slightly different. Like this is not necessarily confirmation that jumpers are dead. I just want to be very clear here, okay? But it sure does seem that way without any more.
You know, Omni, you know what I want to say to you, Omni, to your face right now? In that case, why'd you title your video "Jumper Groups Are Done For" in Rise of Kingdoms, huh? Just giving you shit because I love you.
News, right? And look, they didn't even ask us for our feedback, right? They weren't even like,
yeah,
hey,
so why are you giving it? No. Yo, we're just going in right now.
What do you think about this? Like, no, they're just like, we're deleting it, and so GG, and that's it. So we'll have to wait and see, really, after March 26th, if they do anything to replace the beginners immigration item. It's possible that jumpers will somehow find a way to continue to exist if they add another item to replace this, or some other method or strategy or whatever. Players are always looking for an unfair advantage in these types of games, so it would not be surprising if that were the case. I know there was the sleeper strategy for a while. I don't know if that's still a thing or not. The number one player that I am most concerned for is the Logic Bank here on YouTube. I know that he loved doing jumper projects, sleeper projects, new server projects, things like that, and I don't even know if he was part of projects necessarily, rather than that was just how he enjoyed playing the game. So I'd be really interested to see what the Logic Bank has to say about this change, and hopefully it doesn't affect their enjoyment of the game too much, although I unfortunately feel like it might. Anyway, guys, with that,
all right, that's it, dude. This was good, man. This was a good video, because I just think it really talked about a lot of stuff from a couple angles that Omni brought up. And yeah, this was good to kind of sit back and hear, you know, a big creator and like what they think about jumping from their perspective, right? From what they've seen. Panda, what's up? Welcome. Hey, BN, how we doing today? Doing good. I got to think about what I am going to eat after. But yeah, man, I really wanted to react to this one. This is actually pretty good here. Yeah. Oh man, good stuff. Okay. So I do have another video that I want to do, but I know it is getting a little late. Where are we at right now? We're at like a little over 2 hours into the stream. I'm going to be honest, dude. I'm craving something, but at the same time, I know that I need to not eat right now because it is super late and we are planning to go running tomorrow finally. I need to, oh, that's what I need. That's what I really need to do. I need to update my my iPod. Yeah. So I can put some new jams on it, some new songarinos. But there is another video that I did want to maybe react to. I don't know if we're going to have enough time. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, this is one that Chiz put out. Maybe
now,
we
I don't
will.
want to get...
We'll see. Yeah. Where is it? Oh, yeah, this is it. This sleeper one that he did. I did watch this too as well.
Hello, my friends, and welcome.
So yeah, maybe we'll watch this. George, what's up, George? George says, BN, total player stat video would be interesting after this event and ads they did. No, absolutely. Again, trust me when I say I would have loved to already be getting some data stuff. I know I mentioned this before. Fuzzy's kind of dealing with some stuff IRL, at least when it pertains to like him getting me stuff. I know he's still doing good and getting everyone else the stuff that they need for people that are on the Discord and have engaged with him on stuff. For me, though, I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for my stuff. So yeah, but again, I understand. You know, like it's okay for me. Like I can still get content, make content. I'm okay there. But yes, am I longing for some data from Fuzzy whenever I could get an updated one? Absolutely. Yeah, again, absolutely I am. And again, I'm sure he'll get it to me when he can. But you are right. I do think that would be interesting to see what the numbers look like after the second anniversary push. You know, did that create a big swing one way or another? Did we end up getting a lot more new players that came in? Yeah. Chris said, nope, just tuned in 30 minutes ago. Can't go nowhere. There you go. Yeah. So this video is a little bit longer from Chiz. Now, I don't think we're going to watch, if we do watch this, we're not going to watch the whole thing. There's certain things I want to watch, like this whole jumper versus sleeper thing, and the jumpers. And he actually interviews. What's funny is he interviews someone that joined my 65 project in Call of Dragons. Like this was someone back in when the game was just post-global. And the person that he interviewed was someone that, at least back then, I don't believe was running their own projects at the time, because he had joined one of my projects. I went to go look at our DMs and I had sent him a link to our Kingdom 65 project. I believe it was back when I first got into Call of Dragons. And so now he's kind of running his own project, which is interesting as well, right? I'll tell you right now, I'm telling you, man, the funny thing is that if you look at a lot of the people that have still been playing Rock for a while, and people that are still in the jumper scene, or people that are running projects, I could guarantee you a decent amount of them I have DM history with. Like they either joined one of my projects, they joined one of my servers or one of my Discord servers, in to some extent. It's wild some of the DM history I have with a bunch of people. Just because it feels like it's a small world. I guess that's really what I'm trying to go with. Okay. So let's watch this. We're going to watch this video from Chiz. But like I said, we're not going to watch all of it. We're just going to focus on the core pieces here.
Back. I'm Chisco Gaming, and in today's video, I'm going to help you get the very best.
Okay, let's
talk about the early game process, man. Because let me tell you, if you just downloaded Rise of Kingdoms and started playing the game, you'd think, like, what more would I need to get a good start, right? Like I could watch a YouTube video and figure it out. But no, it's not that simple. Up until this moment in time, there were actually some really incredible tricks you could do to get a massive jump over everybody else. So a couple of those processes that I was aware of is something called a jumper group and another thing called a sleeper account. Could you just like very briefly talk about what those things were or are?
Yeah, no.
Certain amount, and like, you know, there were downsides to it, but it's mostly just upside, right? And
Yes.
with the sleeper project, you can actually go to a sort of like higher amount of power, but then you need some passports and you migrate in. But as I understand it, migrating into any kingdom is somewhat limited these days. Like there's a limited number of spaces for migrants, right? So you can't actually have everybody do the sleeper method and have hundreds of people because that just doesn't work, right?
Yes, there's that, and there's a limit on the kingdoms you could start in with the sleeper process, compared to where you want to be. Has to be within 10 days. Kingdom has to be 10 days old.
Yeah.
And depending on which kingdom in the continent you want to go to, you can be in upwards of 25 million power or 10 million power.
Okay.
Depending on if the kingdom has the early game star or not.
Right. I'm looking at the star kingdoms now, just to get a sense of that. But until the start of season 2, governors with more than 10 million power cannot immigrate to the top 25% of powerful kingdoms in the region. So, anyways,
AKA
all that to say, the way you get advantage in the early game is by getting extra days of time before landing in a kingdom that's your final kingdom, and everybody else in that kingdom is starting that day. So you just have days of advantage and accumulated stuff, which like obviously is powerful. So they made a change, and I might even have this mail saved. It was a system mail. I was fighting in kvk, so actually I don't know if I'll be able to find it through all the mess.
Yeah. So the thing that they're talking about here, just to be very clear, the idea of doing something like a sleeper, to give you a very basic understanding, this is where you would start an account usually in the newest kingdom or one of the newest kingdoms, and you have to make sure that that kingdom is not older than 10 days. So meaning that you can only migrate to a kingdom that is within 10 days old or 10 days difference, plus or minus, from your kingdom. So this is why if you did a sleeper, you basically had to create the account in a newer to the newest kingdom and do it ahead of when that group was going to start. So an example would be, let's say you start in Kingdom 1 and the group starts in Kingdom 10. And let's say the opening times for those kingdoms is a day apart, so you get 10 days. You would start in 1 and you'd be there for those 10 days before the new kingdom came out. And then it would allow for you to grind for those 10 days, and then you'd keep grinding, but you also would have to either pay for a passport for 1, or you had to make sure that you could maybe farm enough at that point and then migrate there later. But the challenge is that if you're doing a jumper project and it's big, you may have a chance of your kingdom becoming a rising star kingdom, which lowers the total power that a player can migrate in. You saw from the screens, it could be 25, but then it goes down to 10. And the problem here is that in most cases, people that are doing sleepers are usually going to spend money because they want to be able just to buy their passport, have it ready. So the moment that the kingdom, I think it has to be like 10 days old, something around there, then you would be able to migrate in. So that's the whole idea, is you start a newer to newish kingdom, you basically get an upgrade. You get to speed through by starting in a kingdom 10 days earlier. You don't have to worry about your level cap. So you could go above CH7, meaning you could have people, and you got to be CH16. That's an important point as well. I don't think they mentioned that. So you have to get to CH16. Obviously, if you're spending, that's no problem. And it just allows you to get a 10-day head start on growing your account. So by the time you go into this new kingdom that's 10 days old, right? As long as you're under 25 mil, right, you can migrate in. So people, you'd have some people that would basically try and be at like 24.5 mil by the time they go in 10 days in. Like, that's pretty strong. So, and again, not to say everyone did that, but that's just kind of the basic idea.
But they made it so that you can no longer get a beginner's teleport. Is that right?
That's correct. As of March 26th, the beginner's immigration item will be suspended.
Okay, there it is.
So,
I just found that mail too.
yeah.
Okay, so this is the big change. And this changes a lot, actually, about how a group would be formed and like what things you might do as a new player. And just to touch on this very briefly, I personally think this is a great change. And I know that anyone who is about to do a jumper project would be obviously
He feels
somewhat
the same as
distraught
Omni.
that like their plans are uprooted. But if you think about this purely from the perspective of someone who has just downloaded the game, like it's got to be weird to like be in a kingdom and you're competing with people who just like mysteriously just seem like better than you. And they're like, oh, I had free to play. I didn't spend anything. And you're, sitting there like, trying to progress as much as you can. And like, you can't compete. And it's like, okay. So I think it's good to level the playing field, to put it very simply. You shouldn't need like a PhD in rockology in order to start playing the game and feel good about it. So I think
Okay, so I am going to give some pushback here, but I'm going to come at this from a different angle than what we did on the Omni video, even though I might still include something there. The new player experience isn't where they feel bad about players coming into the kingdom that are stronger than them. Where some new players more so may take offense or feel one way or another is because of the opportunities that that group of players that came in with stronger accounts now have allowed or have created for themselves. And this comes into the factor of things we said previously, where if you're stronger, you have opportunities to expand a little bit faster. You have opportunities to maybe get more territory than someone else. You can deter players or other alliances away from maybe expanding in your direction because you are stronger than them. You have an opportunity to maybe capture objectives sooner and earlier than others. You may be able to take more land than other alliances in the region. You may be able to have a more guaranteed path to advancing to the next zone than other alliances. So let's be very clear. It's not really about the players and just having stronger people. Keep in mind, when I started out, I played in New Kingdoms, there's always going to be someone stronger than you. So that to me isn't really a reason. It's not really even a justification for saying that you feel that this is a good reason for it being removed. It has to be a little bit more contextualized, a little deeper than that, because this is always going to be a constant thing. It's really about, for some new players, when they experience a situation where those advantages that are created that lead to tangible on the field opportunities are either used against them or they are deprived of because they couldn't make it there because they weren't as strong as it like. And let me give you a really good example here, right? So a good example to exactly what Chiz is saying is if you have an alliance that advances into zone 2, but they don't let anyone else go into zone 2. And the only reason they made it into zone 2 is because they're stronger than all the other alliances and maybe they benefited from jumping. That is what we're really talking about. Like those are more of the tangible, materialistic reasons on why some new players would be frustrated. But if you're going to sit there and try and make an argument to say that the average new player who doesn't know anything about jumping, and in most cases is just a grunt, they're just a jarhead, they're a peon, they are just a standard member, they are most likely not really going to be impacted or affected. It's most likely going to be the people that are in management for those new alliances that are really figuring out things as the kingdom develops because of what they're learning, right? Those are the people that are first and foremost most likely going to have more of a problem with it than just the average member. So that's why I feel like this to me is just all a little bit inflated, and we're not really approaching the topic from what I would argue is a well understood and universally and just kind of well educated from both sides on the knowledge and experience that we're bringing to the argument.
It's generally a good change, but let's talk about the implications of this and what that means for getting the best start possible. I think your two options, and keep me honest, are now still to play with a big group, but you all just start in the kingdom you're going to.
Yeah, sorry, what did George say? That's what I call a sleeper. Well, it's my opinion. Yeah, gift. It's just someone is lower but strong, or someone will play 1 day or two, stop 1 month, log back in and welcome back. Yeah, you could do that too as well. The problem when you do the welcome back though is that usually, at least from what I've seen, from what I understand, is that you might be limited in the kingdoms that you could select from. What did George say here? I might not know a lot about the subject, but from what I hear, in my opinion, players like to have choices. I felt same for COD's factions. Change cards, you are feeling safe to make a mistake. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the thing with jumping is that it just reduces the potential amount of mistakes that you can make because you've already maybe played through the beginning and or just found a better starting method. So you feel like your margin of error for mistakes is less. Yeah, so I can understand that.
And then I think the other option is still that sleeper migration option that you were talking about, right?
Yes, Lilith hasn't directly affected the sleeper process yet. They you still have those two options. So as an example, some other projects are going to be doing both at the same time, where they'll split their group and to have some of their leadership manage their sleepers, and then have other leaders manage the final kingdom to set a good foundation for those sleepers to come into.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Now, a sleeper account, if we just sort of double click into that for a second, you're using a migration item, a passport, but the kingdom has to be a certain age before you can migrate, right?
Yes, at least 10 days old.
It has to be at least 10 days old. So unlike a jumper where it had to be.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sorry, I need to clarify here. I think I had said initially 10 days plus or minus, but technically it's just 10 days younger. You can obviously always migrate to an older kingdom.
Be like less than 10 days old. This needs to
Yeah,
be at least 10 days old.
the thing is with the jumper, it was a little more stressful because you had to get in the kingdom within the first couple hours, and sometimes kingdoms would close up within 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Because there was a jumper capacity. The number floating around was 500, but Lilith never opened up about it, so that's like a unconfirmed truth. If that's
So there's
the
like a
best way to
hidden
describe
number.
it.
And like after that amount, it's just like, no, the server's full of people using these teleport items.
Yes, they closed off beginners immigration for that kingdom.
I don't think I realized that it happened. That's sort of like an intermediary step. So if I wanted to do a sleep.
Yeah, so basically what he's saying is that when a new kingdom was released, and this is something I actually looked into too as well. I have a post on the Rock Discord where I talked about it because I went and I spoke to a number of projects to try and research this. And I believe I more or less came to the same conclusion, is that it's about 500. But there's multiple posts on the Rock Discord of me saying this and like posting what my kind of survey, my review numbers were. And so keep in mind, even if you fill out that, you can still have players join the brand new kingdom. They just have to do it from a day one start, outside of the potential sleepers that could still join.
I would coordinate with a group like yours, and we'd have a sort of like a game plan of like what the final kingdom would be. I would start when you guys would tell me to start, and then I would play in that kingdom for like how long before I would plan to migrate back?
So you would play in that kingdom from anywhere to 17 to 20 days.
Okay.
Just powering up, hoarding your resources, speed ups, maybe taking a few good spots in the events in the kingdom. You would get several monument rewards from like the level 1 holy sites, level 2 holy sites, potentially the level 1 passes if the monument is quick enough. And then on day 10, and then on your 20th-ish day, you would migrate to your destination kingdom.
Okay, so I have an example up. Kingdom 3770 is 19 days and 8 hours old. So as an example, if I was in that kingdom and my group was in a kingdom that's just over 10 days old, let's say it's 3776, that's like 11 days old. That's sort of how that would work, right? I would stay, you said it was up to 20 days, and then migrate back to one that's older than 10 days.
Yeah, it has to be older than 10 days,
Okay.
and within 10 days of your starting kingdom
Oh,
within 10
I
days of
see.
age. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could like go later, but like, why would you? It's kind of weird.
Yeah,
And the
you would be missing out on some of the
Yeah. So like we said before, the idea is that usually if you're going to do something like a sleeper, typically you want to try and pick a time in that kingdom's life where you can get the most amount of rewards from. More often than not, it's usually in the beginning, more so than it is at the midpoint or at the end. And again, that's because there's a lot of new player events that you get to maximize off of. You also will have some of the monument rewards, as they mentioned, for again some of the objectives, passes, etc. That the guest was mentioning.
benefits that come with migrating on day 10.
yeah, okay. And the danger is powering up too much. And if your kingdom that you're wanting to go to flips to star, then there's a tighter migration requirement. And like you can't do anything about it because nobody's the king, right?
Yeah, you can't do anything about it until they get like special tickets, and you have to hope they use it on you, but that may not happen as you get a very limited amount of special tickets.
Okay. I think I'm tracking here. Okay. So what I would personally
Yeah. So basically, what he's saying here is that even if you opted to sleep and you did the sleeper strat, the problem is that you probably couldn't have like 100 people doing it, because you'd have to think that, okay, well, if you have 100 people doing the sleeper thing, it's probably more like a handful, right? And we even stated this before it even got coined a sleeper, back when the update dropped. And I had figured this out, that you could do this basically kind of quad jumping back in the day, right? Where you used to be able to triple jump, now you can only double jump. And what I mean by that is where you used to have 2 beginner immigration items. So you could effectively start in a kingdom, use 1 beginner migration item to go to a second kingdom, and then use your second one to go to a third and your final kingdom, right? Effectively triple jumping. But you could triple jump and then use your final kingdom as your sleeper kingdom, right? Stay there and power up beyond 16, effectively kind of quad jumping in a sense, right? Because you'd stay there in your third kingdom and then you'd wait the 10 days, right? And then you'd buy a passport, and then you would go to the fourth and final kingdom. And the great thing about quad jumping is you could take advantage of the 4 different map types as well, meaning you could get a lot of like the high and medium caves, along with other things too as well. And again, I'm not trying to get super specific and technical for my non-rock family, but yeah, it was pretty good. So that's kind of what he's saying here, is that you have to be mindful, because you can't have a lot of people doing this. Otherwise you'll hit Rising Star a lot sooner. And then anyone that's over 10 mil power, you basically have to kind of wait until they enter season 2 or whenever those special immigration options open up, or just additional migration options open up for you.
want to do, I think. And I know there's a lot of nuance to this, but my recommendation would be that if you're planning to start, the best way to get an advantage is just to play with a good group. And hopefully that would just avoid a lot of the early game chaos and uncertainty. Some people really like that. I've got a restart account. It was just like incredibly fun to start all over and do it all over again just on a whim. But we had a group. Even that was like a group. It was like on a whim, but with a group. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you want to get the best start possible, join a group. They will give you way more detailed and relevant instruction than I could ever give, or you could ever give in this video, because this video is a snapshot of this moment in time. But obviously, as we saw from the mail changing the way that this process works, like things can change pretty quickly, and a video on YouTube will be dated, whereas you'll always get the latest and greatest guidance from someone running one of these groups. In fact, you know, not to glaze you too much, but you sent some credentials along to sort of prove like, hey, we're kind of like legit. Chill Indra had sent these. And according to the jumper community, you guys were graded in March as the #1 group to go and play with. So a score of 92.5%. The next highest score was 72.5%. I don't know how the grading is done, but you know, like someone what am I trying to share? I'm trying to emphasize that people put a lot of effort into restart groups and projects, so much so that there's even people who just rate them. And so you guys are rated well, and it's cool that you're sharing your expertise here. Do you have any other?
So I just want to point out what's funny about this is, for those who don't know, that grading system, and I'll show this to you as well, right? Just to really explain this. So if we go over to Jumper Community, and we'll come back to the video in a sec. If we go to Jumper Community and we look at project, top 5, oh, is it top 5 projects? Yeah. We look at top 5 projects. This is where he got that screenshot from. Now, I want to be very clear here is that I know the people over here that run the Jumper Community, right? It has been aptly renamed to the Restart Community here at the top. Now, the person who runs the Discord now is Z-Man. However, Z-Man took over for Raya. Raya was the OG that started the Jumper Community. I actually collaborated with Raya because she had either joined one of my projects or had joined, either had played with us or had joined some of the servers, and we had got to talking. She liked kind of what I was about, what I spoke about, and kind of how I structured my projects. And so we were friends, and we would collaborate, and she would ask me questions or say, hey, what do you think about this, from time to time. And I was always happy to share what I thought. And so when I heard that they were going to start ranking projects, now I don't know what their criteria is. Keep in mind, I was probably one of the first people, content-wise, to rank Jumper projects. I have ranking videos from way back, from years ago, from Rock, and I have a criteria system that I use based on common denominators, and I allocate kind of simple points out to them. Now, I've done a number of these before. I don't know when the last one I did for Rock, but I just want to point out this is interesting to me because now I may consider going in and ranking the Shogunate project myself after seeing this ranking and score, because I'll tell you right now, this looks like it's a pretty high score at face value. And I don't usually dish out high scores like that. Usually on average, a little bit higher for Rock than COD, but usually nothing that high. So this is interesting. I may consider doing that. So we'll see.
Like tips or tricks for someone who's just getting started?
Okay, yeah. So if you're just getting started, as Chisel said, don't do it alone. There are plenty of experienced players that would love to answer your questions. At least for me, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel a little smart, being able to answer some questions. But yeah, reach out to people. They'll help you in the best ways they can. Watch some YouTube videos, recent YouTube videos. And then let's see, take advantage of the quest lines that pop up in the early game. People tend to overlook them, but they do give loads of resources, loads of speed ups. And if you want individual account growth, go with the sleeper process. It will be much more beneficial for you in the early game, as you will get approximately a 10-day jump start on the others that started in your destination kingdom. You'll seem like a pretty big player compared to those guys.
I feel like the thing that's really cool about the sort of community dynamic of a group that's doing a start together is that you have really, really experienced players, such as yourself, that run these sorts of things, that are very eager to share their knowledge and answer new player beginner questions. And the exchange there is just really cool. It's like you have leaders that want to make groups, and you have players that are eager for coaching, and the people trying to make the groups are happy to coach, and the people that want the coaching are happy to join an experienced group that is coaching them. So this dynamic is a part of what has made sort of starting in Rise of Kingdoms and these Jumper projects really, really, really popular. And people plan them quite literally months in advance. I mean, it's the end of March and you're not going until the end of May. So, yeah, I would strongly recommend, above any other piece of advice, to just find a group that has the kinds of people that want to coach you And again, the incentive is just all there for these group leaders to be doing that kinds of coaching because like that's how they're going to get players. Anything else that you want to add about the new player process? I mean, you know, we talked very briefly kind of before.
Oh, so let me pause here. Two things. Number one is that the person he's talking to here, his name is Vast. And I want to just show this off for a moment because Vast is someone, and I actually talked about this as well. Vast is someone you can see here, right? This is their Discord. And they have like about 849 people on here. If you click on Vast's name, you'll see, right, it says founder. Now, there's nothing here on the messages that's not like damning or anything, but you can see from our DMs back in August of 2022, right, it says, hey, bro, could I join your group for COD? I'm looking for a group that I can actually play for, right? And I said, more than welcome, thankful, right? And so it is just interesting to me because, like I said, it's a small world, man. Like a lot of people, and I don't mean like the jumper community is small, but it's a small world in the sense that there is a lot that goes into not only jumpers and the community and the group and the projects themselves, but you'll often find that if you've been doing it long enough, you'll meet people that, you know, or you'll reconnect with people or say like, oh man, this person's familiar, or maybe have some DM history, right? I happen to have some DM history with this person because it appeared that they had joined the COD project that we did, which again, I think might've been for 65 at the time. Now, whether or not they played in there, I can't remember because that was a while back, but just kind of showing that now and then looking at where this person is, you know, a couple years later, there's some growth.
For this call, and you were describing to me that, you know, you're an early game enjoyer and you've done the early game many times because it's
That's
like,
correct,
you know,
yeah.
it's very, very exciting. There's so much uncertainty and progress in the sort of first couple months. Any other thoughts that you want to share before we wrap this?
Okay, yeah. So I would like to backtrack. We did say that there was a limitation to the amount of sleepers that can go into your kingdom, but there's not a limit to the amount of people that can get into your kingdom. They set a timer. If you start getting a lot of players in, you start getting a longer and longer timer to kind of become the top one alliance before we would leave. And then I would take like half that kingdom with me to come migrate. So there's not necessarily a limit to the amount of people, but there's a limit. Like if they all just come in at once, they'll set a timer before you can get more migrants in.
Okay. How long is that timer? Are we talking like minutes?
So it depends on how many people are trying to come in. I've seen people have like a 30-second timer, so like nothing. And then I've seen people have upwards of a few hours.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you are on the clock. Like the kingdoms can't get too old. Well, I guess you kind of aren't. I mean, the kingdoms are both getting older and they're within 10 days of each other. Like it's fine. It could just take a while, right?
Yeah. It's unlike with the jumper process. You aren't stressed for time.
Right.
In the sense that like I have to get there right now.
You had to.
It's just like on day 11 or day 12 is typically when kingdoms unlock their altars, which you want to migrate to the kingdom before that happens. So you get altars because you want the altars a second time. You'll get them a second time if you're able to do that.
I mean, I think one thing I want to emphasize, because like a new player wouldn't quite understand this, but and you know, we'll come back to this. I had the passport bundle on the screen because I do want to talk about the best place to get passports. But you know, there are these holy sites in your home kingdom. I'm in a KVK map now, but and when you take them, they give rewards. And so a part of what you're maximizing in these sleeper sort of process is double dipping on those rewards in the kingdom you're in and in the kingdom you're going to ultimately go to. But talk to me for just a second about like, where is the best place to get?
Yeah, so I think it's an ask about passports, and this one I think is just pretty straightforward. You're either going to buy it from the shop as a bundle for $5, or you're going to have to wait to get enough credits to get it from the Alliance shop.
At a passport
for Alliance, those people, the natives, they don't like you. Don't ask for a passport in the Alliance in the early game. They get pretty heated pretty quickly if you do that. In my experience,
because they know you're bailing on them, right?
Yeah, they know you're trying to leave. So they'll either verbally harass you for a good long while, or they will just outright zero you before you migrate.
Right. Because you're, you know, a sleeper.
To be fair, it doesn't mean that everyone will, but some may. But Vast is accurate here that the idea is that it can happen. So usually you want to be a little more subtle and discreet.
Is in some ways kind of mooching on the locals until they bounce.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I've instructed from the sleeper groups I've led, what I've instructed my players to do is just tell the people in the kingdom, hey, I'm gonna go out and get resources for my farm, and you go join another alliance that you have like officer in. So like maybe the alliance your farms are actually in,
Okay,
and
sure.
you get those farms to purchase one of those passport pages, which only costs 100,000 alliance credits. So you get them to purchase those, and you buy the passports there. That's what I've instructed my sleepers to do.
Right.
that.
So okay, so
Damn, they've
if you're new
lowered
to
the
the
price of
game,
these. They used to
like
be
I was
more
saying,
expensive.
Alliance officers have to stock this shop. They have to use Alliance credits to do that. Those are limited. So is potentially kind of a time limited opportunity, but I guess we'll see.
No, it definitely is.
Okay. You think it's so good? It's definitely
it's like so the intention I saw with the like you said earlier with the update is to even out the playing field with the inexperienced and experienced.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sleepers kind of just completely topple that. Sleeper counts were stronger than jumper counts, and with jumper counts gone, sleepers are 2 times as powerful as they were before. So
right, because everybody else isn't as strong. And I guess the other thing is like all the evidence in the world that you need that like that process will eventually get removed is that if people are upset when they find out that you're doing it, then like that's obviously a bad experience, right? So they're going to get rid of it. But I don't blame players for taking advantage of mechanics that are in the game, right? Like it's in the game.
I don't blame them
it gives
at
you
all.
an advantage. If you don't do it, somebody else will. Like until it's removed, it's like kind of a fine thing to do. So no judgment from me on that.
Yeah, no, if you can't beat them, join them.
Well, I mean, look, if it's in the game, then like.
Yeah, and I think this is a good point because it almost feels like the sleepers could now take over for the jumpers, because you have to think about it, like the only hard cap on your kingdom is once you hit Rising Star, right? It's just 10, from what I understand, it's season 1, it's 10 mil. It's not like they just cut off from you being able to migrate there. Now, maybe if you hit, and again, I don't think they have like this whole closed thing like they do in COD, where if your kingdom hits full status, just nobody can go there with the exception of special migrants. So when you hit Rising Star, you still could have, the majority of players under 10 mil power, and then the people who are really, and then others that are pushing for just below 25 mil. And you could still technically get everyone in as long as there's not a cutoff point. The only challenge is that if you hit Rising Star and it goes from 25 mil power cap to 10 mil power cap, anyone that's over 10 mil that did not get in before your kingdom went Rising Star, you might have to wait a little bit longer. But technically, you actually could have everyone do the sleeper. The problem with this is that you also have to consider is that if you do this, you won't get into the kingdom until day 10. And oftentimes, by the time you get to day 10, zone 1 is probably already pretty carved out, if not maybe fully carved out at that point. So, if not well fully carved out, meaning all the territory's been occupied, everyone's kind of set up for their objectives, etc. So you lose out, and then you also lose out on early kingdom negotiations, diplomacy, etc. So part of me feels like even though you could do it with the sleepers, it probably is still better to do a split of some percentage. But it feels like, and don't get me wrong, you could technically just do all sleepers and then everyone just comes in day 10 and everyone just goes somewhere. But the problem is you'd have to probably do a little bit more bully ball, and that could probably turn more people against you than maybe being for you compared to if you, again, there's politics as well. You kind of have to consider on how things play out versus a day 1 versus day 10 start.
Like, it's kind of like working as intended, and it's not like it's a secret process that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
People have been doing this for literally like years. So,
Yeah.
and it's still here. So, I think if it'll get addressed, then maybe it'll be sometime in the future. And if I were, you know, making changes to this game, like I would always be making changes incrementally. I think removing jumpers is probably the first step. And then, you know, maybe the devs check in to see like, all right, did it make the game better when we got rid of that? And if it did, then like, I think that sleeper process is on its last legs.
No, definitely. If
Okay,
if this
cool.
update goes as intended, the sleepers will most definitely go away.
Okay.
There's a limited time, people.
It's a limited time, which is why you should find a good group to join. So if you enjoyed.
All right. So yeah, man, listen, that's it for Chiz's video. So on this one, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, this focused a little bit more on the person who was interviewing and kind of what the kind of sleeper guide was and explaining that process, and then also talking about what some of the differences are between a jumper and a sleeper, along with giving a little bit of his take. Omni's video actually did a lot more of like him giving his take. Chiz did give a little bit of his take, but not as much as Omni did in his. As this one focused, I think, just a little bit more on the explanation side of things, but still good because I was able to hear from someone I spoke to a while ago, and we were able to hear a little bit of back and forth on kind of what they thought about everything that's happening now, along with, you know, what are some of the viable processes. So yeah, it was good stuff. Oh, man. Where are we at now? George said he dipped. I am at almost 3 hours we're in right now. Well, listen, fam, I think this is probably a good stopping point for us at the moment. Again, it's almost 11:30 p.m. Local time for me, so it is getting pretty late. I'm going to have to hit the sack here shortly. Obviously, in about 13 hours, we have what I think is going to be a great day tomorrow because we get the solo leveling season 2 finale. Can't wait. And yeah, I will also be planning to stream tomorrow as well, Saturday evening, hopefully closer to when I get off, because there could be some action happening tomorrow. We'll definitely be streaming Sunday and Monday, absolutely, because there's going to be some PvP action, pass openings, some gate openings, zone openings. Like there's some really good stuff happening over the next couple of days. So yes, we will be back tomorrow. I'm going to be trying to stream every day this week, at least up until Friday night. So from tonight, what are we on Friday? Yeah. So across these next 7 days, we're going to be trying to stream every night, hopefully have something for you. And yeah, man, again, I really appreciate everyone tuning in, and the fact that, you know, we, like I usually say, we like to do things a little bit different. So the fact that people enjoy that, getting a little bit of a different take on what we're putting out there for the COD community, it's always appreciated. Now, whether it is morning, afternoon, or evening your time, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.